morning. As we face another day, welcome. This is Mornings with Bob Marrone. It is Thursday, and I've got to get my headphones right. It is Thursday, March 26th, 2020. It's 39 degrees and clear. We're going to have a nice day today. We can at least count on that. We'll get to the top stories in just a moment. But first, let's take a look at the weather. You're listening to Good Morning Westchester. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's an old habit. You're listening Mornings with Bob Marrone. This is your radio station at the train station. Good morning, one and all. Let's take a look at the weather. And the weather's brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. And it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org. Well, it's 39 degrees already, which is actually better than earlier today. It was absolutely frigid. It's getting up to 57 with plenty of sunshine. 56, maybe 57, something like that. The wind will be out of the north, 5-15 miles an hour. Now tonight, increasing clouds with rain late at night. Temperatures getting down to 40 again. And on into Friday, though, early rain followed by sunshine. It's an every other day kind of deal. The high will be 55 degrees, the overnight low 41. And on into Saturday, a mixture of sun and clouds with late day showers, a high 51. And we'll share Sunday with you too. Cloudy with periods of rain, a high of 52 degrees, the low of 54. It's beware the Ides of March. That's the way we roll. And as we get into this first half hour of the program, we're supported by Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, Dominic's Fine Cigars, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and the Beachmont Tavern. All right, let's get into some of the stories, and rather than do headlines, we have so much news today, we're going to get straight. No, we'll do the headlines. We'll do a couple of headlines, but then we'll get right into it. The $2 trillion coronavirus stimulus package is done, and we're going to go through the details of it after the news. We'll let you know what individuals get, what businesses may get, and how each of those little factors work. We'll get into details. George Latimer, the county executive, says more than 4,700 COVID cases in Westchester County as the region awaits the surge, and the surge, they tell us, is coming. The containment area in New Rochelle is ending. How the city will move forward, we'll cover that with you too. Now, we have all the Westchester cases by town, and we'll be sharing that with you. By the way, the Westchester County is not going to close the parks. Metro North's going to trim service. Again, a lot of news to cover. And a couple of other items that came in late. In Mount Vernon, the controller now, a new story came out, didn't hire firefighters that the city needed. And once again, that city in peril. And we didn't even cover that yesterday when we spoke to the mayor. Didn't know about it today. Noah Syndergaard goes in for surgery today, and the U.S. death toll has reached 1,000. All righty, welcome to Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am Bob Marrone. This is Radio Westchester, your radio station at a very, very quiet train station. It is 39 degrees and clear. New York should expect some $40 billion from the $2 trillion stimulus package agreed to early yesterday by Congress and the Trump administration. It didn't get all done really till some details had to be worked out late last night. But the $3.1 billion that is headed to state government to deal with it is a drop in the bucket, Governor Cuomo says. He said this state, which has 1/3 of the cases, needs an equivalent amount of money. Now, the check will include $1,200 for individuals, $2,400 for couples, depending on household income, which would total some $15.5 billion to New Yorkers. And Senator Charles Schumer said the money will provide billions of dollars of relief to New York, not just for state government, but municipalities, hospitals, small businesses, and unemployment. And that there may be more aid in the future. We will cover all the details of that after we get through with the news. So that'll be the second segment, if you will, in this 6 o'clock hour. As we said, County Executive George Latimer announced yesterday that the number of COVID-19 cases is growing. There are more than 4,700 in the county. New Rochelle is the most cases, as you know, but officials say the rise has slowed down due to the management of that containment zone. And we will share some of those numbers with you now, so please do listen up. And we're not going to go through the whole list because it goes from the most through the least, but what we'll say to you is go to our friends at lohud.com, but we'll give you about 10 or so. New Rochelle has the most cases with 234, followed by Yonkers with 201. Mount Vernon has 89, White Plains 74, Greenberg 63, Port Chester 51, Ossining has 47, and Scarsdale 39, Eastchester 38, Mount Pleasant 32, Cortland 31, Yorktown 30, Harrison 29, and Peekskill 29. Marrone, which is close by, the town has 18, the village has 18, and Larchmont, which is close by, 13. And as we look at the rest of it, Bronxville 9. But the rest you can find. It goes all the way down to Pound Ridge, which has 1. But for those of you close by, again, New Rochelle 234, Yonkers 201, Mount Vernon 89, White Plains 74, Scarsdale 39. Now, getting back to New Rochelle, the decision, as you know, was based on the rapid increase in cases coming out of the Young Israel Temple. And that individual who had it and then went to services there led to a big rush of cases, and then the so-called containment area. It banned large gatherings and closed schools and houses of worship before a statewide edict took similar, even somewhat more stringent methods. And during that span, New Rochelle had to address the stigma of being one of the original hotspots in the nation. Fortunately, that has passed. City officials and residents don't expect that reputation to last. And some who tested positive are now part of a state effort to determine if the antibodies in their blood can help others who contracted the disease. In fact, some people are saying, now this is just some individuals who suffered from it. In some ways, New Rochelle is probably the safest place to be right now because of how the virus has worked through the city. And again, the cases seem to be somewhat leveling off here in New Rochelle. Now, this out of Lohud last night. Westchester County-run parks and 6 public golf courses remain open, even as the effort to slow the virus outbreak has stopped most other commerce and recreation in the region. But whether residents have been following social distancing guidelines has been a question at parks like Kensico Dam Plaza, which was bustling with people during recent days. But nonetheless, the county has announced that they will not close parks and golf courses, but please use and demonstrate social distancing, or people will call you out if officials are at the park or park rangers, etc. And he said, though, we're going to assess where we are, and this is George Latimer, we'll assess where we are on the bell curve. Westchester is in terms of expected surge of illnesses, and more decisions could be made on the basis of that. And it's likely, though, that the county is going to push back the opening of Playland probably at least till Memorial Day weekend, and then decide if further shutdowns need to be done. Now, the county has been working with the state to increase hospital capacity as the number of confirmed cases increases. The Westchester's Glen Island Park, it's a county park in New Rochelle, is still being used as a drive-in testing site, and they're also looking, if need be, if the cases surge throughout the west of Westchester to any greater degree, the use of using the Playland massive parking lot as another testing site. Excuse me, it is 6:43. Metro North will begin reducing train service tomorrow, Friday, as stay-at-home measures to stem the spread of the virus hit the commuter rail and its sister agencies with unprecedented weekly losses of $125 million. This in Lohud last night. The railroad will run hourly service on the Harlem, Hudson, and New Haven lines, which have seen, now get this number, we know it here from being at the train station, a 94% drop in ridership. So now extra trains will be added during peak commuting hours to deliver first responders and such. But other than that, they're going to cut back drastically, and you can't blame them for it. It is 6:54. Excuse me. 7 White Plains firefighters tested positive for the virus, and several more have symptoms and are under quarantine while they await results. In a statement on Facebook, the union said, quote, "While our brothers are home recuperating, members of Local 274 will be coming to work to protect you and your loved ones while doing everything in our power to remain healthy." To help the firefighter department and other first responders, the union urges people to stay home. If you need emergency help, tell the 911 dispatcher if you are exhibiting any of the symptoms consistent with COVID-19. But once again, if you're not exhibiting symptoms, people are asking you across New York State not to overuse 911 if you don't need to. They're becoming overburdened as well. Well, a grand opening that many people were looking forward to is going to be delayed as well because of the coronavirus. Wegmans. Yep, they're going to postpone the opening date for the store to be in Harrison. Recruitment and training will continue, however, and interested applicants are encouraged to apply online. They also give a phone number. You can go to Wegmans.com, Harrison, for that. But you can also use this phone number. We'll give it twice after this crisis. We're all going to need employment. 914-539-3700, 914-539-3700. And the food market is a 101-store supermarket chain with stores in New York, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Virginia, and other states. Again, they're not saying when they will open, but it's not. They will give a new date. It's not yet known when. Now, one doctor has shared 5 top immune-boosting tips, and we're going to share them with you actually when we get to the second half of this hour. When we go over all of the details of the new bill that was passed last night. We will get into details. So in about 1 minute's time, we will share the weather with you again. We will reset. And when we come back, we will go over the stimulus bill item by item for you. And then we're going to share some of the tips to increase your immune system. I'd like to tell you that it's vodka or scotch or beer or wine, but I don't think that that's the case. Now, Montefiore here in New Rochelle is moving, as of tomorrow, its maternity unit to St. John's in Yonkers to make more time for patients. Also, Scarsdale, they had an interesting problem there, and this has to do with political correctness more than it does racism. You know, everybody's been calling out the president and others who keep stressing China, et cetera, and if not, there are any racial undertones to that. But one doctor, Marrone, who was giving a talk about the virus in Scarsdale, has come onto what and we'll make this an editorial, an opinion piece. What we believe, I believe, is unfair. He was talking about the history of the disease. He showed how it came from bats, and then he talked about how China was guilty of misinformation in publishing that information. And as you know, here in Westchester, we have this hard left move lately, and they see everything through a lens, it seems, of racism. And they've accused this doctor of being racist. That's totally unfair. That's hard news. That it comes from bats, and he showed a video of how the bats were treated and et cetera, and how it led to this. And then he talked about how the other thing that led to the extent of our problems was contributed by the fact, globally, by the way, that China as a country, not Chinese people, for God's sakes, as a country, did not warn the public sufficiently. That's not racist. Let's stop looking at everything through that lens. And a story I mentioned when I did the headlines, we don't have a lot of details about it yet, but the Mount Vernon controller is once again in the spotlight, even among all of this news, for not hiring, reportedly, or setting the money aside for firefighters, something that the previous mayor who left as if he caused all this, which he did not, at least in our view. They couldn't hire firefighters. He couldn't either. Now the new mayor can in Mount Vernon. And sometimes the news is here to tell you that there's no news at all, that some troubled things continue as they were. The bottom line number right now for the coronavirus before we reset, 1,000 people have died here in these United States. We'll be right back with all the details of the bill to put some money in your pockets, and if you have a business or you're a hospital or you're a major corporation, how the new bill will affect you. First, it is 6:49. The weather's brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.org. And it's 39 degrees. It is clear. The sun's not quite up yet. I mean, it's bright out, but we can't see that little red-orange ball in the sky yet. But it will bring things up to 57 in a mostly sunny day, and we like that. Maybe it'll even kiss 60. That's been the trend. Tonight, increasing clouds with rain late at night. The temperature will be 40 degrees. The wind will be out of the southwest 5 miles an hour. And then on into tomorrow, we get this flip-flop, early rain followed by increasing sunshine, though. We'll take the sunshine getting up once again to the mid-50s. The overnight low 41. Saturday, mixed sun and clouds with late-day showers, a high 51. And on into Sunday, cloudy, periods of rain, but a high of 52. And remember, this half hour supported by many of our patrons: Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Pena and Kahn, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and our friends at the Pizza on Tap. All righty. You may want to grab a pen. You may want to grab a pencil. If you're my age, you may want to get one of those stones and get a hammer and chisel in the information. You're listening to Mornings with Bob Marrone here on Radio Westchester. This is your radio station at the train station. We still haven't worked out our difficulties with YouTube, but we are on everything else. Let's talk about audio first. We're on the application that actually is our virtual transmitter, Radio Jar. We're on RadioWestchester.com, Mornings with Bob Marrone. All of those icons will get you to the show. Or if you go to one of those podcast streaming websites, this one known as MyTuner Radio, you can type in Mornings with Bob Marrone. You'll see my little face. You hit that button, and you will have the audio. Or if you prefer, and many of you seem to, Facebook, Instagram, Periscope. Some of you go to iTunes. Some of you go to iHeartRadio, soon to be on Periscope. So once again, we're going to ask that you get a pen or a pencil. Otherwise, you can probably go on all different websites, CNN and so forth, but we're going to make it easier for you as we go through the morning. It is Thursday, March 26th, 2020, and I'm still rocked from my birthday yesterday at the big 7-0. My goodness. Don't feel like it. Don't feel old. Still playing hockey. Maybe it's true you're as young as you feel. All right. Congressional lawmakers put the finishing touches last night on a $2 million stimulus bill to respond to the coronavirus pandemic with cash and assistance for we regular Americans, Main Street businesses, and hard-hit airlines and manufacturers, that among others. Now, we looked around for different reports. CNN seemed to have the best one. Now, this always could change a little bit by the time the Congress votes on it today to send it up to the president's desk, and it will get signed. But here's what we're at. Under the plan, as it was being negotiated, single Americans would receive $1,200, married couples $2,400, and parents would see $500 for each child under 17. Now, the payments would start to phase out for individuals with adjusted gross incomes of more than $75,000. And again, those are for individuals. And those making more than $99,000 would not qualify at all. The thresholds are doubled for couples. So keep that in mind. And okay, I think I'm good. Student loan payments. If you've got a student loan, please listen up. The Department of Education would suspend payments on student loan borrowers without penalties right through September 30th. This is what's in the bill. CNN reported last week that the Department of Education was planning to allow student loan borrowers to suspend payments without penalty and accruing interest for 60 days. Well, now it is until September 30th. The deadline to obtain a real ID, federally mandated identification that will be needed for passengers to board aircraft, those are those new driver's licenses that you've seen, will be extended until at least September 2021. So now, not just September this year, you've got a whole year and a half plus to get that license, a year past the current deadline, according to a draft version of the Senate stimulus bill. Before the pandemic swept across the U.S., states were preparing to issue resident Real ID compliant driver's licenses by October 1st, 2020. So you have a whole new year to do that. Let's take a look at unemployment. Pardon me. In an unprecedented expansion of unemployment insurance, the federal government would give jobless workers an extra $600 a week for 4 months on top of their state benefits. Now those payments, that's the max, would range from $200 to $550 a week on average, depending on the state. In New York, I think we're looking at $400. In addition, lawmakers want to add, now again, this is so early, this may change by the time it's signed today, but this is pretty on the ball. In addition, lawmakers want to add up to 13 weeks of extended benefits, which would be fully covered by the federal government. Currently, state employment checks last up to 12 weeks and 28 weeks, depending on the state. So what they're talking about is taking this thing out to like 39 weeks or so. Plus, the deal calls for a new pandemic unemployment assistance program, which will provide jobless benefits to those who are unemployed, partially unemployed, or unable to work because of the virus and don't qualify for traditional benefits. This includes independent contractors and the self-employed who typically don't qualify for such assistance, and to gig economy workers who aren't eligible in many states. These benefits would mirror what's available in an individual's state. Now, again, we're going to have to look at the fine print on that. If you own, you're your own businessman or woman, how will that affect you? How will you get employment? If you're a gig employee, many of you develop websites, you write freelance, you do customer service at home as a contractor. We still have to get the details on that. Now, $500 billion has been set aside as a lending program. The Treasury Department will provide $500 billion in loans, loan guarantees, and investments. That specifically includes $25 billion for passenger air carriers. They're in a lot of trouble. They've been begging for help. Some have even said they may have to cease operations or much of their operations. $4 billion for cargo air carriers and $17 billion for businesses that work on national security, which is to say defense contractors and now those that will be developing masks, et cetera, et cetera. Now, those businesses may not issue. Here's the catch, though. If you get the money, you may not issue dividends for up to a year after the loan is no longer outstanding and must retain 90% employment level. So if you want the money, they want you passing it through to your employees, and that's 90%. Now, here's a little touchy here of your employment levels as of 2 days ago, March 24th. Now, there were people already laid off prior to that. So that's to the extent practicable. It is conditional, to the extent practicable, and that's language from the bill, and that's through September 30th, okay? The loans also cannot last longer than 5 years. You have to pay it back in 5 years. So whatever you get, and again, this is mostly the bigger businesses, whatever you get, the loan can only last 5 years. Now, there is a specific provision in the program for direct loans to mid-sized businesses defined as between 500 and 10,000 employees, as well as nonprofit organizations, where no payments will be due for the first 6 months after the loan is issued. Now, there will be congressional oversight. For those of you who look through the political lens, it was emphasized that Trump businesses can't get money. The legislation prohibits federally elected officials and their immediate relatives from obtaining funds from the $500 billion program. So that ought to preempt a number of phone calls. Now, businesses that are owned or partially owned by the president and the vice president and the head of an executive department or a member of Congress and spouse, child, son-in-law, or daughter-in-law will be barred. So whether you are a Democrat or Republican, you will not be able to benefit from this program if you are an elected president, vice president, obviously the head of an executive department, or a member of Congress, and your spouses, children, sons-in-law, daughters-in-law, you will be barred. Remember, it's coming up on 7 o'clock. You're listening to Radio Westchester. We're going through the details of the bill. Again, some of this needs to be further clarified, and there may be another dotted, if you will, an I dotted or T crossed as it gets signed by Congress today and the president. But we're giving you all that we know right now. No money for the border wall. Again, for those of you who worry about the political implications of this, the Defense Department will get $1.2 billion for the National Guard's coronavirus response. Over 10,000 National Guard members, and that's just the day they've been activated, so they're going to need that money. An additional $1 billion is available for Defense Purchases Act purchases. Again, if we need to do to buy ammunition, or for that matter, they need money as they fight the virus, another $1 billion if the Defense Purchases Act is employed for some reason. Notably, while the Pentagon will be allowed to transfer the money to other applicable accounts, it prohibits transferring the money to the counter-drug account, an account which has been used to fund Trump's border wall. So again, no money for the border wall. Now, here's what airlines and airports will get. The package includes $32 billion in grants for wages and benefits to the decimated airline industry. That includes $25 billion for passenger airlines, $4 billion for cargo airlines, $3 billion for industry contractors such as those who handle catering, baggage, ticketing, and aircraft cleaning. They will get money as well. Okay. In addition, another $25 billion, we mentioned this in the headline, for passenger airlines and $4 billion for cargo airlines will be available in the form of loans, not outright payments. Companies that receive the assistance are barred from making furloughs. We cannot stress this enough. Pay cuts. They can't do pay cuts, and they cannot buy back their own stock, and from issuing dividends to investors. We're talking here about airlines and airline-related industries, the airports, baggage handling, employees, ticketing, aircraft cleaning, blah, 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 industry contractors. Again, if you receive assistance, you're barred from making furloughs, pay cuts, or stock buybacks, and from issuing dividends to investors through September. It also institutes limits on executive compensation. Airlines may also be required to operate routes they would otherwise like to cancel because of low ridership or profitability. Under the bill, the Transportation Department can require air carriers to continue service on routes, particularly for the needs of small and remote communities and the need to maintain well-functioning healthcare and pharmaceutical supply chains. And it's simply put, if you're an airline that's delivering medical supplies or troops or different things like that, you got to do it. And also, if it's an underserved route, but the only way for people to get there, the government, and those are called strings, folks. The government gives you money. There are strings attached. So that is how that will go. Now, contractors and gig workers, listen up. It is 7:03, but we're going to get through this before we go to any guests this morning. Independent contractors and so-called gig workers will be eligible to receive federal aid. The language could provide additional certainty to millions of part-time workers who drive for Uber or deliver for Amazon in what has become a major part of the digital economy. The provisions are responsive to requests by tech execs, including Uber CEO Daryl Khosrowshahi. That's Khosrowshahi, pardon me, who this week wrote to President Trump, asking for economic support for Uber drivers. Gig economy businesses such as Uber have battled fiercely at the state level, especially in California, to avoid having to classify their drivers as employees, as you know. Okay. Protections against foreclosures and evictions. Please, everybody listen up here. You've got mortgages to pay. You may not be working. You've got rent to pay. Listen closely. The bill includes housing protections against foreclosures on mortgages and evictions for renters. Again, I'm going to repeat this. Get your pen out. The bill includes housing protections against foreclosures on mortgages and evictions for renters. The bill states that anyone facing a financial hardship from coronavirus shall be given a forbearance on federally backed mortgage loans up to 60 days, which can be extended for 4 periods of 30 days each. Again, forbearance on a federally backed mortgage loan up to 60 days, which can be extended for 4 periods of 30 days each. So you're talking about potentially 6 months. The legislation says the services of federally backed mortgages loans may not begin the foreclosure process for 60 days from March 18th. Now, the bill also does not allow fees, penalties, or additional interest to be charged as a result of delayed payments. It includes similar protections for those with multifamily federal mortgage loans, allowing them to receive a 30-day forbearance and up to 2 30-day extensions. Those with federally backed mortgage loans who have tenants would also not be allowed to evict those tenants solely for failure to pay rent for 120 days, and they may not charge fees or penalties themselves. Now, we need to look more closely. Not every loan is federally guaranteed or in some ways has a federally backed mortgage, so we will have to look at those further. The bill contains $25 million to support John F. Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. This is a federal agency that is funded by a mixture of appropriations and ticket revenues. More funding for food assistance. The bill provides $450 million for the Emergency Food Assistance Program, which supplies food banks, which are expected to see more clients as job losses mount. Some $350 million would buy additional food, and $100 million would be used for distribution. It also provides $200 million for food assistance for Puerto Rico and other U.S. territories, another $100 million for distribution on American Indian reservations. It is 7:06. While it appears that the bill provides billions in additional funding for the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, that's food stamps and child nutrition programs, it would not expand eligibility for benefits, however. Evacuations. The bill includes $324 million for the State Department, as well as money specifically for evacuation expenses, according to the draft that was read last night by CNN. The proposed legislation doesn't specify who would be evacuated, whether it's U.S. diplomats or American citizens living overseas. One senior State Department official said that 9,300 Americans had already been repatriated from other countries. A different senior State Department official said the government was tracking 13,500 Americans seeking assistance from abroad. It is 707. The bill includes some $88 million for the Peace Corps, an independent U.S. government agency that sends American volunteers abroad. The organization suspended all operations last week and evacuated the volunteers. Its director noted that operations will return to normal when conditions permit. In addition, the measure provides an additional $324 million for diplomatic programs, $258 million for international disaster equipment, or rather assistance, and $350 million for migration and refugee assistance. Now, again, the highlights: direct payments to you for single and people filing jointly, depending on income, ranging from $1,200 to $2,400 for couples. But there are wage thresholds there for that. Student loan payments suspended. The Real ID deadline extended for a whole year. A boost to unemployment benefits from 26 weeks to almost 39 weeks with extra money. But the extra money depends on the state that you're in. And by tomorrow, we'll have more information on this, and we'll tell you how it affects New Yorkers. It's expected that for the first several weeks, there would be a $400 addition to your payments, but that is not yet final. A big lending program for businesses, for airlines, and some direct payments to airlines as well. And small businesses, and no money for the border wall for those of you who like your politics. Now, gig economy, people not normally eligible for unemployment will see some sort of compensation. Those details need to be worked out as well. Now, there's protections against foreclosures and evictions, housing protections against them on mortgages and evictions for renters. Now, again, the bill has a lot of specific language in it about forbearance on federally backed mortgage loans up to 60 days, and federally backed mortgage loans may not begin procedures, etc. But it doesn't expressly talk about, even though in most new media outlets they talk about this relief, banks that do not have federally guaranteed loans. So that's not to say they're not included. The information we get from everyone says they are, but we're not seeing it in the information that we have collected here at Radio Westchester about the individual bill. But their forbearance is expected to be similar. So as we move forward, now by tomorrow, and even by a little bit later today, we should be able to bring down the specifics of this bill after it is signed to our region. So we'll give you what we have for New York State, for Connecticut, and for New Jersey. But the money's on its way. Now, they're telling us that people who get direct deposit, and now don't you wish you did if you didn't in your when you get your tax return a refund, people who get direct deposit will get it somewhere between April 6th and May. And the rest of us who do not, we probably won't see a check till May. So you may need to start thinking about the relatives or friends that you can borrow some short-term money from if you are in urgent need. Now, as we have more information, you will have more information. But that's what we know so far. And let's see if I can get any other data. Now, again, we told you what New York may get. This $1,200 for individuals, $24 for couples, etc. But we really want to get more details before we misinform you. You're listening to Radio Westchester. Let's take a look at who we're going to be talking about today. And one of the groups we're talking about, we talked earlier about food banks. Well, our very own Hope Community Service, which is right across from Oasis, the homeless folks there, they sent out the clarion call last night. They reached me at home, and they are in desperate need for food. I guess a lot of people have gone there for food already. So we're going to talk with a representative there. We're not sure who it will be. We spoke with Phyllis Shelton last night as their representative, but she said it may be her or someone else from Hope. They will be talking with us at 8 o'clock. We're also going to be talking with some folks from Optum Health about some psychological and behavioral solutions during this time of crisis. We'll do that at 8:20. Vince is joining us at 7:20 this morning. John Bailey, our man in White Plains. We'll see how things are going there and what his reaction to all of this is. We will talk with Andy Spano, political analyst, former county executive, at 8:35. We also get to throw in some politics. Why Trump's numbers going up, even as each time he speaks, even if some of the things he's saying we like, some of the things he also is dissembling and kind of talking off the cuff. But nonetheless, that is a fact. And so we need to deal with that, frankly. Also, Joe Biden, during this crisis, is getting no traction because he's not in the front of the news. And then what does he think? What will Andy Spano say about the performance of his governor, of Andrew Cuomo, whose reports on the virus, because we're New York, and being the most densely populated city of the country or thereabouts, having the most cases and the need for the most help, he also has demonstrated some real leadership that is changing his profile, which has always been semi-national. I mean, he was, I think it was a HUD secretary under the Clinton administration. He's been his father's campaign manager when Mario Cuomo was nationally regarded. But now he has a greater national profile than ever, causing, indeed, many networks to broadcast his accounts of the day. And something that needs to be said about his accounts for the day, and also the mayor of New York, they're not happy with the stimulus package that we just went over for you. And they're hopeful that there will be upgrades. And most of the cognoscenti involved in these kinds of things think that not that there'll necessarily be upgrades, but there will be additions to this help. Again, I just want to mention a couple of other things that are nearby. Montefiore Hospital here in New Rochelle is moving their labor and delivery of child processes to St. John's Hospital in Yonkers. We have the issue here in the Hope Community Group. They need food. We'll tell you what kinds when they come on with us at 8 o'clock. There was a little brouhaha yesterday in just totally not necessary in Scarsdale, where a doctor was going over how the virus spread, and he was covering the factual part, at least as we understand it, and he wasn't getting racial. He simply said that it started in China. It was evolved from bats, and showed some film about that, and then said that one of the reasons it spread the way it did in some other countries is that China was not open originally about. And that's the country. That is the, this is a very interesting issue. That I'll touch very briefly, and then we'll move on. I don't like when, although you could call it the China virus, had it become, I wouldn't think anything about Chinese people. I wouldn't even get, that would be the second thought. It would simply be where it happened. The Spanish flu, it wasn't even a Spanish flu. That's where it made news. It would be, in effect, like calling it the New Rochelle news, because this is where it made news in New York State. That happens. Legionnaire's disease. Those of you who are a certain age know that that's one of the few times they named an illness because of a gathering in which it was first noted down in Philadelphia. So these things evolve. Okay, we want to be a little more politically correct and not have, because what we're really saying is some people are too dumb to know that just because it's in China doesn't mean that it's someone ethnically Chinese that did it. I get that. But when someone says it started in China and it started in bats, and that the Chinese government was not forthright, that is not anti-Chinese the same way. And there's a real delicate balance here, because there are a lot of people on the left that use their anti-Semitism and they hide behind, it's just a criticism of the state. But anyone who loves Israel, and includes many Israelis themselves and many, many members of the Jewish diaspora around the world, you have every right, we have every right to criticize Israel as a nation if we do not like her behavior. That is not anti-Semitism. So let's separate the two, and all our political correctness on the left and right. In fact, that's kind of interesting, because the people defending, and rightly so, saying they don't want Chinese people being in any way slandered because of this virus, those generally tend to be people on the left, and it's people on the right that are saying, on the left differently, that are saying, and this is why it's ironic, they're saying, hey, if you criticize Israel, that is not being racist. So you got to make up your minds what you're going to be consistent about. Okay, we're going to go to the weather. We're going to go to some of our guests today. We have a lot of good guests. We will be catching up with many of you. We have some national news that's been coming in over our little wire. We still call it the wire, even though it's a computer or radio or television. Don't ask me why we do that. This is Radio Westchester. I'm Bob Marrone. The program is Mornings with Bob Marrone. We've been doing this in one shape or form since 2007 on various radio stations. Now, this one, we're broadcasting live on some 7 or 8 platforms. YouTube's giving us problems. Now, something I'm adding to the show tomorrow. Again, we had to add equipment as we went. We already have 7 computers and about 7 different screens. We are going to start tracking the online information that you send to us. The online information that you request as we go. We'll follow our Facebook page and comment back during the show. And yes, we're going to start tweeting. We've got several shows we're going to be adding probably next week. We'll tell you about those. But again, this is Radio Westchester. Let's take a look at the weather. And the weather's brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. Voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. And it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org. It's 39. It is sunny. It is absolutely lovely out there. Well, it's probably about 40 now. The last note I have here is 39, but now that the sun's up, it's 40, 41. Getting up to near 60 today. Plenty of sunshine. Thursday night, we will have increasing clouds. The temperature getting down to 40. You'll need your jacket again. Friday, early rain. That's tomorrow. In case you don't know where it is, you're in the house. You probably destroyed the clocks. Friday, early rain, followed by increasing sunshine. The high will be 55. The overnight low will be 41. Saturday, mixed sun and clouds with late day showers. The high will be 51 degrees. The overnight low will be 42. And welcome once again to the program. And this top of the hour is supported by Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, plug-in virtual reality, and our friends at the Beachmont Tavern, where I wish I had one of those burgers with onions, but sauteed onions. Don't want them not cooked. They don't digest well in my little stomach. Welcome back to the program. We'll be talking with Vince Russo. He did fix, or at least he says he did. He fixed his clock, but in the immortal words of Ralph Cramden to Ed Norton, he ain't boomfing right because I haven't heard from him. A couple of other stories. How well are we social distancing? Smartphone location data can rank the states. Imagine that. They're being followed everywhere. That's a whole other issue. State labor departments are overwhelmed with unemployment applications. And that's always calling on time. And 30% unemployment is a possibility at the peak of this crisis. And we start out, and I know that was long, folks, but we wanted you to get a sense. And now when you have, at least you know where to go looking. Most of the newspapers, look at the big ones on this one, even though you may not like the broadsheets. Papers like the Times use the big print or the Wall Street Journal, and they're both at politically other ends of the spectrum. So you don't have to worry about the politics of it. Go to one of those big broadsheets. Now the News and the Post, they're going to have summaries too, but those broadsheets will have the details. So too will their website. So too will places like CNN, MSNBC, Fox News. When it comes to this, everybody's going to play it straight. I mean, there'll be little spins here and there, but you can get more details. And as we have more details, we will get them to you, and we'll do the best we can, but hopefully we've given you a framework to ask the right questions and pursue it, and we will do that for you as well. We go to our first guest of the day. He's kind of like we used to go to David Letterman's show. There was a guy that came on early and warmed you up. He warms us up each and every day. Please welcome Vince Russo. Good morning, Vince.
Hey, good morning, Bob.
I see your new clock is working well.
You know what? I was listening to you, and I just glanced over, and I said, time to call.
I do that I do these little sneaky things that people don't know about. And hey, welcome to the program. By the way, my grandson is doing, so I won't get into the medical details, but is doing a very heroic thing for his dad. And it's taking now 3 days. He's going back in today.
Oh boy!
Yeah, but so I can't go anywhere near him. Had to pull up next to a car and have me tell him I love him and good luck. But I can't touch him. Anyway, The stimulus is pretty good in many, many ways, but there's still a lot of I's that need to be dotted and T's crossed about how it affects, because it's state by state, unemployment state by state. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I know it's true. I was just reading the Times article about what's being covered, and at least it's something. And I think what it's going to do certainly is bolster the stock market a little bit. I know the Dow futures are down slightly right now, but I think it's in these days of 1,000-point swings.
2,000 yesterday, yeah, up. No,
yeah.
Good. It was good. It was up 2,000 yesterday.
What,
Go ahead,
did it close up 2,000?
yes.
I didn't see that because
Yeah,
the last time I saw it was up 500. So that's the first 2-day uptick in a month or so.
Hey, there were bargains, and what did it when people heard about the stimulus, they knew it was going to keep things relatively economically stable. I think the larger issue, though, going forward, is that people are starting, and I wish they wouldn't do it, but they are, and it's the nature of our politics today. Your reaction to this, they're hardening their positions. Now some people, and it's on the right, it surprises me, are saying, well, grandfathers will be happy to die. I'm a grandfather. I turned 70 yesterday. I don't want to die. Yes, would I be happy to die for my grandson? And God, I hope he's not listening, be embarrassed. If right now I got a memo from God and God said, you have to die tomorrow for Ian to have the 70-plus years and a wonderful life, I would do it.
Well, of course you would do that.
But I'm not interested in dying unnecessarily. However, people before us, and I said this 3 days ago, there's a lot of sides to the story. It's just there's a certain coldness to the people saying this. There are a lot of people who were willing to risk their lives for the better of the country, and where that sweet spot is, I don't know.
Well, we're still seeing that, though. We're still seeing the mail being delivered. We're still seeing people working in factories and stores and things like that.
I'm working.
And they're to be commended. I mean, I'm a politician, so I'm hunkered down here in my house.
You're upset because you can't kiss babies and steal their candy.
Well, the steal their candy part is true. But so people are still doing that, and I think a big mistake would be to open up the economy. All of the experts you read, whether it's in the Times, any of the Yahoo or any of those kinds of outlets, every expert keeps saying just continue what we're doing, continue social distancing, stay at home, don't get out there and mingle and things like that. And yet we keep reading Trump is saying, well, I think we're gonna open the economy, let everybody go out back in the street. And they said that we're having a tough time now in the hospitals. If we do that, it's just going to fall off the cliff. The whole thing is just going to go to hell.
Well, you got people like Tucker Carlson and others. I saw some posts on Facebook last night, and I have to reconcile this. I'll get a professional on. They say, well, 19 people died during the bird flu thing in 2009, and we didn't shut down the government. And I know that numerically that's true, but I know this is different, but it's intuitive. I've got to get somebody to disabuse that notion because it's making its way in the wackadoodle websites like InfoWars and stuff like that, and we got to check it out.
Yeah, and all of these young people who either they think they're never going to die or
you mean never?
Well, if you don't die, the IRS is going to kill you.
They'll see that I do.
Either they think they're never going to die, or they don't give a damn about anybody but themselves and their own instant gratification. And it's tragic, because if we continue doing what we're doing, we're going to stem the tide of this thing.
Yes.
But if we don't, it is just going to roll through and decimate the whole population.
Well, it's going to take, but see, I think one of the things that guides the president, you can't, and this is why I cut him a certain amount of slack. You can't be successful at anything, even the way he runs Trump, if you're not his organization before he was president. You can't. You have to be supreme, and you have to have weathered terrible storms. And so, those of us, I mean, I have a little bit of this in me right now. I keep coming to work. I've got to be careful. I've run into people who may have had the virus. You keep saying to yourself, "Well, we got through this. Everything else, we'll get through this." And at the end of it, only X, we're going to be here, and 80% of us are going to be fine. And we need people with that attitude, but it needs to be measured. And the president's probably got this issue of, and I'm sure some of it's political, but I'm going to cut him slack there again. I can't let the country slide into destruction either. He's just not very articulate. There are ways to say that, not the way he does.
Well, I don't think the country will slide into destruction if the whole population gets infected with this thing.
There is a school of thought. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but there is a school of thought that says, even though people will die and the hospitals will be catastrophically overwhelmed, that once 60% of the people get it, the virus is over because you have who cured them, bury the dead and move on. That sounds harsh. I'm not saying that, but I've seen editorials that say it.
Yeah, but that just concentrates on one area of the problem, because once everybody gets infected, I don't mean literally everybody, but
who will?
Mass of the population, then everything is going to shut down. The food production is going to shut down. Deliveries of goods are going to shut down. You think there's shortages now? There's literally going to be nothing in the stores.
Well, but if he
anarchy, Bob.
But if he opens up, no, I'm not justifying this. I'm simply saying I don't agree with that. I think if the president opened it up, but the governors won't do it anyway, you would just have a lot of dead people, a lot of overwhelmed hospitals, and 80% of the people won't get sick. 60% of the people will get the virus. You'll have herd immunity. In other words, there are those with the mentality writing on websites and newspapers and TV programs that, in fact, some person who's totally against doing it said on NPR last night, "Oh, that would, you get this all done more quickly, but a lot more people would die." That's all I'm saying. I'm not suggesting we do that because
I understand.
I'm glad I'm not the president. But
I don't think that that tells the whole story, because it'll devolve into anarchy. Believe me.
Well, no, I'm not saying
you will have to stand at your door and fight off people coming into your house to try and get your food.
Well,
and this Trump does not even have the capacity to make these analytical decisions. I mean, he just does everything by the seat of his pants. This virus, it's bad. It's bad.
No, he does.
Don't worry about it.
Listen, I want to say something else and get your reaction. I believe that when this is over, remember when you were playing hockey and there was a guy that wanted to fight you and you really didn't want to fight him, and then so you said, just look the other way, count the house, But then after the game, you felt guilty. I should have fought the guy. Well, but at the time, it seemed like a very prudent thing to do. Well, one of the things I think you're going to see a big backlash. A lot of older Americans now know that a huge segment of this country doesn't care if they die. And if the Democrats don't make that work for them, woe to them. This is going to be, it's going to be out there because too many people have said it. I mean, any old person watches Fox has to be out of their mind and watch Tucker Carlson look into it's time to die. And even if it is, even if some tablet would come down from heaven again, as you very uber religious people feel, some guy came out of the mountain with a great marketing campaign. Anyway, I digress. Even if we got a tablet that said it'd be better for the world for old people to die, it would come out a lot warmer than it has. This contempt for old people is that this administration's going to wear that.
Well, they have contempt for everybody, but the everybody doesn't realize it. They have contempt for the farmers. They have contempt for people who work in manufacturing. They have contempt for poor people. They have contempt for old people. And yet they wrap it in this sort of patriotic kind of way that, if you look at the every segment of the population, nobody should vote for Trump. I mean, he's hurt every single segment of the population,
yep.
whether it's farmers or, the only people he's helped is rich people. And
although he's done things that people want and some of the things that you want. He's attacked immigration.
What is he? He hasn't attacked him. What has he done about it?
Well, he's tried
nothing.
to. He's tried
done
to.
Nothing. He's done nothing. He's talked about that stupid wall that won't work, and he's herded all of these people at the border. But he hasn't put forth any if I use the hackneyed phrase, which I can't stand anymore, a comprehensive immigration reform program. He hasn't come out with this thing that says, here's the bill. This is what I think we should do. Same thing with health care. Obamacare, we got to get rid of Obamacare. We're going to replace it with something better, something way better. Well, where's the plan? What is your solution? Hasn't come up with anything. He just talks, and people just eat it up. It is just baffling, especially in the Midwest. We've got relatives that live in Ohio, and they've, for the longest time, of course, they've been so hard hit with loss of jobs. Manufacturing has gone overseas and things like that. And yet they support this knucklehead like you would not believe. And all he does is keep doing stuff that harms them. This, quote, tax cut didn't cut taxes for regular people, cut taxes for the rich. And yet people keep buying this hogwash. It's really amazing how people vote for things that are not in their best interest.
Well, they're going to continue to do that. And that's just the way they roll. Now, in New Jersey, what is the mentality? Your governor has to be the most faceless governor on the planet. I mean, and even yesterday, he's giving a speech with his arms folded. Is he shy or something?
I have no idea.
I mean, who is he?
I think he's a lightweight. He's another one of these rich Wall Street guys. Who was the previous knucklehead? I see his face.
Corzine or Corzine.
Corzine.
Well, wait, but look at what Porcula did. He wasn't, I'm still waiting for the Supreme Court to keep those other two people in jail, to get those. I can't believe that case, closing down the bridges, is at the Supreme Court. And there's even a chance that someone's just going to consider it politics as usual. If that's politics as usual, we should just leave Trump in and just tear everything down now.
Well, I agree
with
that.
Tear it down.
So Murphy, I think he's doing, he's not an inspiring or exciting speaker, whereas the fat guy was able to do that. He was able to muster the troops.
Krispy Kreme, he was able to muster the troops.
That's his credit. He did a good job during the superstorm era. We had all of these hurricanes and all that. And I think Murphy is just a lot more reserved and stuff, but he's doing the right thing.
He is, I guess.
He's saying everything that the CDC is advising. He's telling people to stay home. He's closed all business and non-essential and things like that. So I think he's doing the right thing.
By the way,
the guy who I think is really shining is Andrew Cuomo.
Well, everybody says he is. Yeah, he's even national. By the way, that beep means they're playing your song, Norton. We'll be back to you later.
All right, man.
Thanks
Talk to you
very
later.
much.
Bye.
All righty, we're going to go to our man in White Plains who's calling on the other line. We have this system. I've got to get that other line fixed because one of the other shows we're going to be doing, folks. Again, it's in development, but someone very reliable is working on it, and we're going to be talking about some of the good old times right here in New Rochelle. But now we go to White Plains. Our man in White Plains is on the phone. He's John Bailey. He is the editor-in-chief of WhitePlainsCitizen.net. He also hosts White Plains Week and another radio show, the name of a TV show I always forget the name of, but he'll tell us. Please welcome John Bailey. Good morning, John.
Good morning from White Plains, New York, USA.
USA. Oh, you sure? So, what do you think of the new stimulus package?
Well, I can tell you what Governor Cuomo thinks. He thinks it's terrible for New York.
Go ahead.
Yes, and the reason it's terrible is we're only getting $3.8 billion, and we were originally scheduled in the House bill to get $17 billion. And so they have cut it by $13.4 billion, and this really will complicate New York's budget, which the Governor Cuomo says without much more aid, the budget is in serious trouble.
Well, do you think that they're probably later on going to help, that there'll be additional bills to help New York?
No, nobody said that. Have they?
No, but I've read it that may hold on, I'm just trying to get
Well,
send it on. Go ahead. Go ahead.
well, let's hope so. Let's put it that way. Let's hope so. Meanwhile, it's being pork barreled around the country to states that have budgets that just hardly compare to New York's.
Well, they hardly
And
compare. Some of these states hardly compare to Westchester County, or for that matter, New Rochelle. I mean, Brooklyn has
yeah.
more people than Wyoming, for God's sake.
So, as a New Yorker, and the place which has by far the most coronavirus cases reported, and is really moving with an amazing pace to meet the need. The governor now says they have plans in place to reach about 120,000 of the beds needed in his staff's estimation. But we do not. We are doing more than any other state.
Well,
to,
we have more.
meet
We
the-
have more cases of the virus than any other state, and I'm
Well,
looking,
yeah, but we're acting, and he has done a great job.
well, I'm looking at my numbers here. I want to see White Plains. How many do you have?
75 as of last night.
Say again.
75
Wow.
as of last night, and that was up about 20 persons in 24 hours.
Yeah. Okay. So,
Okay.
what is Tom Roach saying? Has he come out of his borough to talk to the city at all?
Oh well, he is sending out a robocall every evening for about a week now, and on the status of things in White Plains. And for example, last night he said he is setting up free parking in restaurant-oriented areas in White Plains so people can park free for the takeout orders that they're placing. And he also has warned residents that you should not throw sanitized cleaning materials into the toilets because it's clogging the sewer system.
Yes, we did that story. We saw it and we announced it yesterday. Now, how do you weigh in, John? I find this whole issue really, really one of the more fascinating and troubling and weighty decisions a president or any government's ever had to make. When to reopen the government and at what cost to human life. Where do you weigh in on
Well,
this?
I don't think they should open up everything until they see a marked decrease in the
Well, are you
New York numbers.
Are you in your 70s yet?
Yeah, I'm 74.
Are you willing to die for the greater good? Because there are people who
Absolutely not.
Why not?
Absolutely not.
Why not? Tucker Carlson and those people think you should, or at least if one of the guys there, they think maybe you should. Maybe it's time. The lieutenant governor of Texas thinks you ought to give it up for the greater good.
Right. Well, let him be the first.
It is 7:40.
No, I mean these people talk big, and they don't think big. That's the big problem.
Okay, why do you think the president's approval numbers are up? I think it's also a question of people want to come together, but that's my take. What's yours?
They like the fact that he downplays everything and everything will be all right. That's what I think. And also, they look at this as a New York problem.
Really?
I'm just that's off the top of my head.
Yeah, well, maybe perhaps they do. I hadn't thought of it that way. All right, let's talk about.
I hate New York. They hate us.
What else is going on in White Plains? Tell us about. Let's get into White Plains stuff. You always have a good list.
Well, what is really good is how the Westchester County and the Child Care Associations have come together to put together daycare providing for the first responders and the medical personnel who are the people have to work and show up, but need someone to take care of the kids. And that is apparently working, though nobody is talking too much about how well it's working. But this is what is happening is there seems to be a lack of information of how this is going. I mean, the only information we got was when Benjamin Boykin, the head of the Board of Legislators, put out the procedure for opting for the daycare for first responders. You're supposed to call the school in your community. Mostly they're schools that are providing the space with teachers available to supervise.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really know that, whether it's a combination of teachers and actual daycare workers who are experienced with this sort of thing.
So Boykin actually put something out. Huh? He's one of those people that never returns phone calls, by the way. You know my commitment to out people who do that. I gave up trying to reach that guy.
Which guy was that?
Boykin. Is he awake?
Boykin.
Does he have a pulse?
Well, yeah. Well, he at least puts out these messages to the people.
Well, they all do.
It matters. And no, that was the only message that was put out. Now, the school district informs parents, you see, because they're part of the school family. And if you're a parent, you get these messages from the school district. But if you're not a parent, you don't get them.
Wow. Okay. Well, give Boynton credit.
But that has always been the case. That can't be traced to a new policy by the school district. And everything is put on Facebook, and everything is put on the school district website. But when you go there, I just don't think it's upfront about key matters they need to know so far. I mean, I go there, and I don't see much. If I really have a question that answers my question about the operations of the school district online. Now, I do have information that the online learning is actually taking place in New York City, where a school where my daughter teaches, and she is running the online classes at home in a school that is not one of the elite, but certainly is responding. They put together a program, and kids are signing on to it. We don't know what the attendance is, but they can't go outside, so it's a good thing to do. But I mean, it's working in my daughter's school.
How are
but
you
they
guys?
had to put that together like in 24 hours.
John Bailey's with us. John Bailey is the managing editor of WhitePlainsCitizen.net. He is our man in White Plains. Have you had the issues, to the extent at least, that New Rochelle and New York City has, and Yonkers, with getting food to kids who wouldn't eat if they didn't go to school? And do you think...
We don't know that. We don't know that.
Why not?
Because nobody's talking about it. Apparently, what I would say is if persons are getting them, okay, then they're fine. You're not going to hear about it. But if they're not, you would, or, you know...
Well, how are they getting their lunches?
Some electronic journalist would put a microphone in front of their face and they'd talk about it.
But every other city's had a problem. I mean, it's turned out to be, and I'm not going to, scandal's not the right word. It's turned out to be not a dirty little secret, but a not very well talked about issue that we have.
Exactly my point, Bob.
Thousands of students and I know why. Well, I can't say I know why because that would be unfair and make me presumptuous. I think I know why. We have in this county and in New York City, thousands of kids whose parents are irresponsible, or, to give them some credit, because of their work situations or low income, can't possibly feed their kids. But I'm more concerned about the level of irresponsibility and the level of bad parenting that requires us to, and I have no problem, I'm not saying I don't want the kids to eat. What I'm saying is, what kind of parent are you if I said to you, I'm going to give you more food stamps to make sure that your son or daughter has breakfast and lunch, but I can't trust you, so I don't do that. But yet, if I start talking about that, the liberals are going to rip me apart. Well, I just did, and let them, because what we need to do in this society is start focusing on these egregiously, these abject, irresponsible parents. And I'm not talking about the poor ones. And if you're that poor, then we do need to help you, and we do need to give your kids lunch. But then what do I say? And I'm asking you this, John, to the guy who's at the lower end of middle class, has 4 kids, can barely pay his or her rent, whose wife is stretched out watching somebody else's kids. Why should he have to buy lunch for his kids? Why can't everybody? And someone told me yesterday, I don't know how true it is, that anyone can get free lunch and breakfast. If that's the case, then give it to everybody.
Well, I have no answer to that.
Well,
because
the real problem is no one wants to deal with
the
no one wants to deal with the cultural issues that lead to this. And so it's a nice solution, but what we had was superintendents willing to let, just like, people are criticizing the president for maybe being willing to let some people die. Well, they were willing to let more people get sick so that they could hide the fact that they needed to feed these kids.
Listen, look, the president has handled this badly.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't taken it seriously. I don't think anyone can dispute that. And the idea of opening the country already and getting open for business by April the 12th, well, I would exercise a little more caution than that.
Well, yes, but how is that different than leaving a school open because you don't want to tell people, well, kids won't eat? I get it, but it's the same damn thing with a different twist.
The schools are closed for the most part. There's only one school.
Well, it finally happened.
Open, and that's Post Road, and that's where they're giving the daycare.
But it took arm twisting to do, and especially down in New York, where they should just throw that racist dope out. But it just upsets me because kids shouldn't have to go hungry.
They do, and the program was initiated because of the discoveries that poor nutrition or poor eating habits definitely restrict their abilities to learn, and when that happened, and
I know.
It's emphasis.
See,
on
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it, John.
It became an issue.
I'm not saying we shouldn't do it. What I'm saying is, because everybody knows the answer. These are just places where you shouldn't go. That we have some very extremely irresponsible parents out there, and society doesn't want to confront the issue. So,
well, I'll say the biggest irresponsible parents right now are the persons who sent their students to spring break.
That's interesting.
Who are now fanning across across the country and helping to spread the virus.
All right, it is 7:50. We are with John Bailey here on Radio Westchester. Okay, what else is going on in White Plains now that I got that off my chest?
Well, the city appears to be really cooperating with the social distancing, and however, the Mayor Roach has banned games in various park playgrounds because they've been and if you do play in an organized sport like basketball, soccer, like that, the police will disperse you.
And what about if it's just 2 kids kicking a soccer ball? See, that's why it's going to be hard to police. You can't. Why would you do that? They can keep 6 feet away. Due process, my friend.
I'm just telling you.
I know. I understand.
What the policy was installed in White Plains. I mean, it's. I went into a supermarket yesterday, and I wore a bandana and a scarf around my face because I don't want to get sick. And what I noticed was virtually most of the clerks in the store did not have masks on. They had gloves on, but they were at risk.
Okay.
And also, there were many patrons in the store that didn't have masks on. And my feeling is that this is not taking care of yourself.
Okay.
And I think it's, and I understand that various food markets are putting up shields now so that you don't actually breathe on the
Yeah, I saw it.
clerks.
I saw it in a supermarket yesterday. There, I felt
Yeah.
like I was at a hockey game. What else do you got from White Plains, John Bailey?
Well, I thought that I think that the city is doing a good job. I think 75 persons infected indicate that the virus is growing, and we just hope we can keep it growing at a lesser rate. Let's put it that way. In fact, that's what the governor is encouraged about, that it appears that the distancing is extending the amount of time it takes for the hospitals to be being up, which is the one thing I took from his briefing yesterday,
Okay.
the Governor Cuomo's briefing. And it gave me heart because after Monday, I was really, really depressed. And,
I don't. This one thing. This stuff hasn't been depressing me. I'm not sure I know why, but
well, I react differently because I think the great frustration is that we, sitting at home trying to cooperate, are frustrated. We can't do anything, and the persons that can do things, with the possible exception of Governor Cuomo, ain't doing it.
no, they're not. All righty.
And this bothers me greatly. Oh, and
Go
by
ahead.
the way,
No, go ahead.
mental health, a huge issue.
I'm going to be
And the
talking
governor-
about that at 8:20.
Yes, well, have you given out the number?
You mean?
See if I can find it.
Oh, me?
They have a new hotline in the state that will be manned on a volunteer basis by mental health professionals who volunteered, 6,075 of them. The way it works, you dial up the number if you're depressed.
Do you have
or
that
a real
number?
issue.
Do you
What?
have that number? Otherwise, I'll look it up.
It's
Look it up, John.
I will.
Well, I'm writing it anyway.
Add this out here, but
All right.
okay, I got it.
Go ahead.
1-844.
What? Go ahead. Say it again.
1-844.
Uh huh.
863.
Uh huh.
9314.
Okay, so it's 840. Did you say 841?
849.
849 863
9314.
9314. And that's a mental health hotline. Lord knows.
Yes,
I'm gonna need
run
it.
by New York State, and the way it works is you call that number, you give your name, your number, sort of maybe state your problem. I don't know. He just announced it yesterday morning, and a trained professional in mental health will call you back and discuss it with you.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, apropos of that, we're going to
Yeah, that wasn't on the news.
Now, I'm going to be talking with some
I
folks from
think so.
Optum Health about some behavioral solutions, and we're going to talk with our friends at Choice as well, a mental health nonprofit, at 9 o'clock. John Bailey, thank you very, very much. We'll talk to you again next week. You stay safe, please.
And put on those bandit masks, everybody.
All right, I am a bandit. All righty. I know some people were trying to get in. The phones are open. We have a caller. Let's reset a little bit. This is Radio Westchester. It is 7:55. It is 39. It's 41 now. Beautiful day out there. Coming up at 8 o'clock, we will talk with someone from Hope and see if we can help them get some food. And let's go to the telephone. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester.
Hey, Bobby, it's Anthony.
Anthony, what's up?
Unfortunately, again, I have to call to add a little balance to your misinformation spot that's there every morning.
Oh, it's not missed it. Well, we'll make it
It's
personal.
not? Well, here, let's talk about what was said and what actually is.
Okay, let's do that.
Okay. There are probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people who have already had the coronavirus, have been through all of the trials and tribulations, are now back to at least semi, if not good health, and
Yes.
have the antibodies in their systems.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't they return to work?
That's a good question, but I think that we'd
And
have to
that's
ask a professional.
what the president is suggesting. As segments of the population are, or I'm going to use the word cleared, and it may not be the
No,
best
you
word
don't have to
use.
be. You don't have to be perfect. Go ahead.
Okay, why can they not return to their jobs?
That's a good question, and that is a fair question.
And why can't it be done incrementally on that basis?
I can't answer that either. That is a fair
Okay, so
statement.
that's number one issue debunked. Okay.
Well,
Let's go to
we'll
number
ask
two.
we'll ask an expert, but go ahead.
Let's go to number two. Immigration.
Yes.
He's done nothing on immigration. What are the numbers?
Well, I
of
didn't agree with the
immigration?
caller
Have
either.
they gone way down?
Yes.
Okay. Has Mexico intercepted people traveling through their country, coming to the United States, and holding them to check out their asylum claims?
Yes.
Okay. I guess nothing was done, right?
Go ahead. Continue.
No.
No,
This
this is
what was given out this morning.
No. I understand, and
Okay?
you have
Now,
counted
and I'm
it.
going to show you why people like myself are disgusted about this, okay?
Yeah.
I'm now on the CNN site, okay? And they're reporting on what's in the stimulus package.
Go ahead.
Okay? And I'm quoting this. This is a direct quote. The legislation prohibits federally elected officials and their immediate relatives from obtaining funds from the $500 billion program.
Yes.
And that's perfect, right?
Yes.
Okay. The only trouble is, you know what the headline is above it?
What?
Trump businesses can't get money.
Oh, that's really to get your attention. Yeah, but you know why they
No,
did
but
that?
wait, Bob,
yeah,
wait,
but
wait.
Let me.
So what they're saying
No, wait a
it
minute.
doesn't apply to any other
Well, do you know why?
congressional members?
See, I was glad they wrote that, but I'll tell you why. Because I thought it was unfair of people to say earlier in the week they had said that Trump won't talk about whether or not he wants help. I viewed that, and it may just be the filter in my brain, I viewed that as saying, hey, idiots, Trump's not going to benefit from this. I thought that defended the president. But then again, I tend
Trump's
to be fair-minded.
businesses can't get money.
I agree.
Defends Trump's businesses?
I emphasize
I see just
that.
as many Republicans and Democrats
Anthony,
playing around in the stock
Anthony,
market.
you're absolutely right, but I want you to know when we did that, and I got to do this hope thing, when we did that at 6:30 this morning, we made that point, and I said, for those of you who want to make this political, who was saying the other day that Trump's going to benefit, well, he's not. See, I thought I think we just viewed it through different...
One final point I want to make.
Go ahead.
Just for the person who loves to call other people knuckleheads, okay?
Yeah.
It's
I kind
a
of agree with him.
knucklehead that believes that the president makes policy. He signs bills.
Well, we
he
know
doesn't
that.
make bills.
We know that, but again,
Well, that's not what was stated this morning. That's not what was stated
no, but
this morning,
one of the
Bob.
things and I'm not defending the caller because I know him.
Okay.
The same as I don't defend you because we're friends. In that instance, he's trying to talk about the things that the president said that he hasn't delivered on, whether or not the others make policy.
He can't deliver a bill unless it's presented to his desk.
I know, but he did say those things. Listen, I got to go, but to be continued. Thank you for the call. We've got to get to this next one. Because, come on. They can make one call and then they hang up. We need to talk to the people from Hope, and we need to do this right away. It is 8 o'clock. You're listening. Oh, that's it. Call back. But see, folks, I'm here by myself, totally, in this isolated booth. And, it's nice and sanitized, but I got to answer phones, hit buttons, talk to people, argue with guests, argue with them, or not, or whatever. All righty. Let me see who's on the line. Good morning. Who's on the air?
This is Walt Ritz from Hope Community Services.
Hey, thank you. We really wanted to get to you. Now, I got your full name again?
Walt Ritz. RITZ is the last name.
Walt, like the cracker. Walt Ritz. Well,
exactly. Over the hotel, either or.
And see, now what's good about that is that's a perfect segue as to why you're here. You need Ritz crackers or you need food. Now, when I was telling people that Phyllis reached out to me last night, some people said, well, I thought Hope had plenty of food and they were giving it out. I said, yeah, they gave it all out. What's going on over there and how can we help?
Well, that's exactly what's happening. We got a lot of food and we gave it out. The demand for food right now in New Rochelle is unlike anything we've ever seen before. And with the containment period happening, we've felt that hope that it's been really important that we eliminate any food insecurity so that the residents of New Rochelle can at least have that one piece to not worry about. But in doing so, we've been tripling the amount of time that we've opened up our food pantry. So, last week we gave out food to 1,400 seniors. We delivered it right into their buildings. We've had several more people come to us that we haven't had before. And because our frequency is now increased, of course, the amount of food that we have depletes much quicker. So we do have a real need for food and a real need for donations at this moment so that we can keep this going.
Okay, now, when you say are people coming to pick it up? Are you delivering it? I know with some of the school lunches, we had issues of so many people showed up that they weren't keeping their social distancing. Have you had problems with that, or is this mostly you guys delivering food?
Well, typically we don't deliver, because of what was happening with the food insecurity and the anxiety, particularly around homebound seniors. We felt that they can't get out. On this occasion, we're going to get out to them so that they don't have to worry about that. So we're looking at ways to be able to continue to do that. But most of our food pantry that's utilized by the public in New Rochelle isn't delivered. Individuals will come into Hope Community Services, and we'll give them prepared bags of food that they can take to their home and start preparing meals at home.
Okay, now, are these prepackaged bags of food where people come and say, do you have a name for it? Is it a parcel? Is it a bag? What do you call it? And what's in there usually?
So we just refer to it as a bag of food, but in that bag, there'll be 27 meals that a family or an individual can utilize. If it's a family, we
did
will
I get that right?
More,
I'm sorry, did you say 27?
27 meals
Wow.
that can come out of a bag. Yeah.
No kidding. So that's a considerably sized bag.
Yeah, I mean, it's important for us to be able to make sure that whoever's receiving food isn't going to need to come back in a couple days, so that they have enough food to last them a week or so. But what's important for us is that the elements that go in that bag are staples that families really tend to utilize. So you have your pastas in there, you have your rices, canned goods, canned veggies. It's all non-perishable food.
Wonderful.
We really make an effort to make sure it's something that's
Mr.
utilized.
Ritz, who's your typical person using it? Is it a shut-in, or is it a senior worried about coming out in general? Who's your typical? And then, of course, you have families of lesser means that just need it too. Who are your typical customers?
Well, it's all of the above. It is really anyone that does not have enough funds available on their own to be able to afford food that would make them secure with food. So what we do is we make sure that we can fill that gap for them.
Okay, let's go through the list. And again, your first name again, and I'm sorry, is it?
That's quite all right. It's Walt.
I'm sorry, Walt Ritz, like Walt Disney and Ritz. I'll remember, because again, folks, we didn't know who the guest was going to be today, so my apologies. I should have wrote it down. Walt, let's go through the kinds of stuff you want and then how people can get it to you. And you can take your time. I'm not going to rush you. Let's be sure that people know where to bring it, how to get it to you, etc., and what types of food you don't want.
Sure. So right now, the types of food that we are really looking to collect on are soups, tunas, cereals, and pasta. There are other. Of course, we will accept any non-perishable food as long as it's good. But that's
But
those
what
are
about
the
things like
staples that
bread
we're
and
looking
stuff
for.
like that? I mean, bread is perishable. Italian bread's really perishable. But what about loaves of bread? If or are you discouraging that? I know you want canned goods, and of course the pastas, the rices, and things like that. They can last a long time. They don't even need refrigeration until you heat them. And canned stuff. What else? What else? Give us the whole range.
So the bread is actually important, and although we're looking for non-perishables, we realize that things like breads and and fresh veggies are really important for the community too. So we do accept those as well, and we also, I should mention, we operate a soup kitchen as well. We're not just a food pantry, so there are two ways for us to be able to utilize food.
Now,
And
do you get
I want to make a pitch for that too.
Well, again, and I wanted to be sure we covered all these bases. Well, you're pretty much across the street from Oasis. Do the people come in for the hot meals from there as well?
Well, what we've had to do since the containment period came into effect is we've had to change a lot of protocols.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, and one of the biggest ones was allowing individuals that are in New Rochelle to still receive food from our soup kitchen, but not dine in our soup kitchen. So
Just
we used
like
to have
the
100 people a
restaurants.
night. Yeah, we used to have 100 people a night come in our soup kitchen, and we'd be able to serve them. But since the containment period has occurred, and in an effort to maximize safety for everyone, we've decided to provide takeout meals. So we're still providing food to the community. We're just not allowing them to dine in a congregate setting.
Okay, so now the reason I mentioned that, and this makes a lot of sense, is there a separate category of food that you use to prepare these meals that people can also bring, or do you worry about that yourselves through funding? And do you need food mostly for these takeout bags, these families that are getting a whole bag of meals?
So to separate the two, so in our soup kitchen, those are hot meals that we prepare. We have arrangements with a lot of the churches and synagogues in New Rochelle, and they are generous and gracious, and they provide the food for Hope to be able to distribute it to the community. As you know, lots of churches and synagogues in New Rochelle have been closed down and may not have the same capacity. So what we are looking at is ways to fill in those gaps. So there's a few ways that we're doing that. One, of course, is via donation so that we can buy food to prepare. And two is that, sometimes we will take a look at what we have in our own pantry, and if we can prepare a meal from that, then we do.
Okay, this is
but
all...
I also...
Go ahead. No, continue, please, Walt.
I want to make another point, too. Donations are very important for us. Of course, food donations are important, but monetary donations give us a lot of buying power because we're able to buy from soup kitchens at a much lower rate than someone else could. So we can actually stretch a dollar a lot farther than individuals might be able to.
I'm so glad you're mentioning this because that's why I went down that path. Okay, so let's draw a line. We have two streams here. One is food, and the other is donations. The other's money. What I'd like you to do is, again, tell us the types of food that people can go out and buy and bring to you, or otherwise get it to you. Tell us what you want. Give us that summary again.
Sure. So if anyone is interested in providing Hope Community Services with food, and again, we're on 50 Washington Avenue, the things that we're looking for are canned tuna. We're looking for cereal. We're looking for soups. We're looking for meals in a can or some type of prepared meal. And pasta.
Okay.
Those are
staples. But anything that's not perishable, I'm sure is going to help bread, etc. Now, give us the address where they should bring it, and if they can raise a lot of food, will you send somebody to pick it up if they can't do it?
If there's a substantial amount of food, Hope can do that as long as we can make arrangements to do that.
Okay.
I do want to say we are very short-staffed, and we are short on volunteers at the moment. So it's tough for us to be able to get out too frequently.
Okay. Where should they bring the food?
So when they come to 50 Washington Avenue at Hope Community Services, there will be a blue door, and someone can just ring that bell, or sometimes that door may be open, and we can have food received that way.
Okay, so I'm going to reiterate that for folks. Folks, you could bring those perishables, the pasta, the tuna, the canned prepared meals, the other perishables, the vegetables, the bread, the pasta. You could bring it to 50 Washington Avenue. There's a blue door. Ring the bell, drop off the food. And now come on, I need to add this editorial. I've never met anyone, particularly those of you who have a garage or a pantry. You don't have stuff you haven't eaten. It's been sitting there. You're not going to eat it. It's there for a rainy day. Well, this is your rainy day. Help out these people. That's number one. Now, money that you need so that you could buy the prepared foods or otherwise supplement the meals you're giving out, the bagged food. Where can they send their donations? Obviously, if they want to drop off a check, they can, but most people who are not getting out are going to mail you something. Where should they mail it, and how should they address it? And it is tax deductible, folks.
There are two ways for us to be able to receive. Number one is via a check. Checks can be made out to Hope Community Services, and the address is 50 Washington Avenue.
Zip?
In New Rochelle, 10801.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the first way we can do it. The second way is for those that are inclined and are willing to and able to on a website. We have our website, which is hopecommunityservices.org.
Mm-hmm.
And the ORG is very important. It's .org, not .com.
Right.
And there's a link, so anyone that's looking at our website can also donate straight to our website. And anyone that is interested in doing that, I think it's a good opportunity to also see some of what's happening here at Hope right now, and not just the work that we're doing at the moment, but some of the work that we do throughout the year.
It's a tremendous work. How long has Hope been there? I know it's been there as long as I've been in Westchester, which is going on 20 years now.
Hope has been around since 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Started out small in the current location at 50 Washington Avenue. That they've been there since we've been there since 1995.
Mm-hmm. How long have you been?
Quite a long time.
Excuse me. How long have you been involved?
I've been involved with Hope since May of last year.
Well, it's a credit to you that you're doing this and you're out there doing this. Folks, I'm going to reiterate, and then I'm going to ask you to make any final statements. We're talking about Hope Community Services, been there for over 30 years, been in their current location at 50 Washington for almost 25 years. Wow. 50 Washington Avenue, right here. They are giving out meals to seniors. They're giving out bags of groceries that could cover 27 meals in the extreme case, which is a pretty cool thing. But they need food. They need stuff that is not perishable. Again, bread I know is perishable, but they certainly can use bread. But tuna, pasta, rice, canned vegetables, prepared meals that are in cans and things like that you can open up, etc. They need those. They also need money. They need money for the hot meals that they prepare, the food kitchen, if you will. What is that called again?
Our soup kitchen.
Soup kitchen, but they can't, again, have the 100 people come in every night and sit down, so they're handing out these meals, much as our restaurants have to now, and there they need money to buy food. And you could send a check to Hope Community Services at 50 Washington Avenue, New Rochelle, New York, 10801, or you can go on their website, hopecommunityservices.org, and donate that way as well. Now, I'd like to give you some open-ended time to make your appeal in any way that you'd like, Walt Ritz.
Sure. Well, I would just like to remind everyone that this is a very unusual time right now. As everyone is doing, we're all trying to figure out how to manage and how to navigate waters that we've really never sailed before. We do know at Hope that right now people are feeling insecure about a lot of things. The one thing that we can do is try to make them feel a little more secure about where their food is going to be able to come from. But we can only do that with the support of our community. We purchase the food from the food bank, so when we're feeding the community, it's coming out of our pocket. So in order for us to be able to continue the level that we've been doing, we need more support from our community. So I would ask anyone that's listening, just remember that right now there's a lot of people that are wondering where their food is going to be coming from, and they rely on us. And we want to be able to support them like we've done since we began in 1984. So please think about donating food, donating money, or donating your time. And if you are able, take a look at what's happening at Hope on hopecommunityservices.org. And lastly, I just want to say I appreciate everyone that's listening right now, and that anyone that may be listening that may be inspired to take a look at us and help us out. If you don't know about us, or this is the first time you're hearing about us, I hope that we can be able to educate you on a great organization that's been doing this for a long time.
All right.
And right now we're putting the pedal to the metal.
Well, thank you very much, and we're going to reiterate this throughout the days and weeks. I have all the information, obviously. Walt Rich, continue success with this, and thank you very, very much for being on.
Thank you for having me on. I appreciate that.
And we'll do this again if need be, as many times if need be. Okay, it is coming up on 7:19. At 7:20, we're going to talk with a very interesting individual. His name is Dr. Randall Solomon. He's the Regional Medical Director at Optimum Health. And we're going to talk about behavioral solutions and things that they are doing to help right now during this crisis. But first, we do need to do a quick update on the weather, and we will get back to our very special guest. The weather's brought to you by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.org. It is 43 degrees, going to get up to near 60 today. It is sunny. Now tonight, increasing clouds with rain, though late at night, the temperature around 40. The early rain, it'll lead into some early rain, but then increasing sunshine again tomorrow by afternoon, a high of 55 degrees or so. And on Saturday, mixed sun and clouds with late day showers. The high will be 51. And on into Sunday, cloudy with periods of rain again, a high of 52. But still, it will be a little warmer. And as we get into the 8 o'clock hour, you'll pardon me, I'm confusing my hours here. We're supported by Aging Issues Management, our friends at United Hebrew, Dominic's Fine Cigars, pluginvirtualreality.com, and our friends also at the Beachmont Tavern. We come right up now on 7:20. Please, without further ado, welcome to the program, Dr. Randall Solomon. Good morning, Doctor. How are you?
Good morning. Thank you. I'm fine. I'm healthy. I'm sheltered in place.
You are sheltered in
well
place.
there.
Well, be sure to be careful, but you're a doctor, so I'm sure you're washing your hands every 5 minutes, as well you should. Don't touch your face. Doctor, what are you doing? You're the Regional Medical Director for Optum Health. Tell us about the behavioral issues that you guys and services that you guys are providing during this time of crisis.
Well, we're opening up our helpline to everybody. If for anyone that wants some emotional support, we have trained mental health specialists available 24/7, and the line will be open as long as necessary. The number of that line is 866-342-6892. And again, that's a free line that's open 24/7 with a direct connection to trained mental health specialists.
Doctor, this is a wonderful thing. In fact, we just got a county number that another guest gave us. So all of these things, how much is, and this is a wonderful thing that Optum's doing. And I need to say this because people say, yeah, but do I have to be a member of Optum Health? I don't, do I, to use this number?
No, this is open to anybody at all.
Okay, now, tell us about besides the fact that one or other of us may kill our spouses or significant others, what are the dangers of people being within their houses? And then also, You got the issue of people who already may have free-floating anxiety or tend to be anxious and tend to blow these things, and they can't help it out of proportion, especially if they're in the house and not really interacting with a lot of people and being outwardly focused. Tell us about what some of the concerns that the medical community has for these folks.
Well, the concerns are pretty much what you've listed. Everybody has short-term stress, and this is certainly a somewhat longer-term stress, but a long term of lots of stress is not healthy for us in a number of ways. So it's really important that we all take care of ourselves, recognizing that this is a stressful time, and make some adjustments to allow for that.
Such as, what should those adjustments be?
Well, you want to, I think in my mind, one of the most important is to limit how much time you spend listening to the news about the COVID-19 crisis. It can really keep building up and make things even more frightening. One suggestion I've had for people is to find 1 hour a day to worry and then stop for the other 23. It's also really important, even though we're all kind of isolated, to really reach out to other people, either with a phone, a FaceTime, a Skype, and keep connected with other people. Those are things that are really, really helpful.
They are also, doctor, and I know mental health community can't solve financial problems, but it can certainly help people to cope. As many people are home now who've been furloughed or wondering if they're going to get paid, wondering whether the stimulus money would come through, whether or not there'll be an economy when this is over. This for some families is extreme, an extreme cause of anxiety. How do we get those folks? How can we help those folks to stay in the moment and wait till tomorrow and see what tomorrow brings, or to start making inquiries about how to get paid?
That's a really good point. One of the things that California Governor Newsom said here, he pointed out, which I thought was really wise, he pointed out that this is not permanent. This is just a moment in time. Mm-hmm. And while we're in this moment of time, we really don't know what's going to happen afterwards, or we might be worried about it. But what we have to do is take now as a separate moment. We might need to rearrange our days and come up with a new routine. A routine's very helpful. We need to, of course, wash our hands, say happy birthday twice, keep the lather up. And at some point, we just have to recognize we're doing everything that we can do and just stay in the moment, and we'll have to wait and see what happens. I don't think there's nobody that's alone in this. Everybody is doing this.
And I've noticed that even if this is probably can be the high point for places for utilities such as Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram. This could be their high watermark, as well as FaceTime, et cetera. We're talking with Dr. Randall Solomon. He's the Regional Medical Director at Optum Health Behavioral Solutions segment in California. Doctor, we're going to have some folks, the way depression works, who are going to become suicidal for lack of being externally focused. And will the people on the Optum line, and folks, I want to remind you, the doctor's here to tell us that Optum Health has put out a mental health hotline, and I'm going to give you the number right now. It's 866-342-6892. Get a pencil, a pen, crayon, chisel, 866-342-6892. I mean, it goes without saying. Well, there'll be people who are skilled at that on these hotlines.
Yes, exactly. Everyone on the line is a trained, licensed mental health professional.
That's absolutely great to hear. That Optum Health is doing that. This is a great credit to you folks. Now, as a practitioner of these things, what are you most concerned about?
Well, I'm most concerned that people, well, let me put it this way. One of the things that's the easiest or the simplest to manage is the anxiety that comes with being anxious about being anxious.
Tell me about
I think we all need to I think we all need to recognize we are all somewhat anxious and stressed right now, and if we can just accept that fact, that really reduces the stress a lot.
Then
go ahead. After that,
continue.
Just taking care of yourself every way you can.
Now, doctor, you probably this is me being very selfish here, but I'm going to go there. In covering the news for the last 3 years, I found myself more anxious over the behavior of the president, to be honest with you, than anything else, even though I do the news and have to be even handed about the news stuff. But what you say is very true, and I'm just sharing it. This issue, I have less trouble covering this issue than I did that. But I would actually go home and say, I'm not watching the news until a certain time of night. Then I get my news and do my show prep and then watch something funny before I go to bed because tomorrow morning I got to talk about it for 4 hours. It really does help to segment and compartmentalize, doesn't it?
It really, really does. And, some of the other things that you can do, you can try to bring as much normalcy into your life. For instance, last weekend I had a virtual dinner party with some friends. We all made the same menu, and we got together and FaceTimed and had dinner together.
Well, that's you. You can do
very normalized.
Or as I did, it was my birthday yesterday, and I had people.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. I had people in cars on either side of me wishing me a happy birthday. But I couldn't see or hug or say. I could say thank you, and I ate a McMurray's, whatever it is, some kind of ice cream that they serve at McDonald's, I guess it is. Doctor, I know you probably have to go, but I am just so impressed that Optum Health is doing this. Again, we are talking with Dr. Randall Solomon. He's the Regional Medical Director at Optum Health, their Behavioral Sciences the division. And they've set up a helpline. And there's a county one, too, but they will be mental health professionals at every time you call, and it's 866-342-6892. While I have you, and I should take it that Optum Health, your medical programs, your insurance programs, and things like that, do they cover mental illness? That's become a big problem in society today.
Yes, that's what Optum Behavioral covers exclusively. We're a separate division, and we cover all aspects of mental health coverage, yes.
Because, here in the Northeast... Go ahead, I'm sorry. Continue.
We're all over the country. We're everywhere. Yeah.
No, because here in the Northeast, as you know, I'm talking about specifically the practitioners. You almost every psychiatrist wants cash. They don't even want to take insurance. Although there are psychologists and there are social workers licensed to help. They take insurance, but it's become a real issue for us. How is the industry solving that? Are they putting together, for example, this is just me thinking out of the box, groups of psychologists who, if they need a psychiatrist to refer someone either for medication or for something, a serious psychotic illness, are they working in teams to ameliorate this financial issue?
That's a wonderful point. It can be a problem, and part of the reason is because there just aren't enough psychiatrists around. And as you say, not everyone is taking insurance. What we're trying to do is exactly what you're saying. We work with any groups where there's group practices. Usually a group will be able to be more flexible for seeing people quicker. We also work with many people that are working with telehealth, where they're doing virtual visits, we call them.
Terrific.
And, those people, and in fact, some of them on our website even have their schedule up there, so you can make your appointment right on the website. But that's for Optum. The helpline is for everyone. I want to make sure people know that part.
Yeah, what I'd like you to do for us is two things. And again, this is Optum, and if you want to plug it, you should, because you're doing this service. They've set up this help. You don't need to be a customer or a patient in their programs. Optum, we're talking with on our closing moments with Dr. Randall Solomon, Regional Medical Director at Optum Health Behavioral Solutions Division. They set up this line for you, and you don't have to be a customer. 866-342-6892, 866-342-6892. Now, tell us, for people who do use your insurance, et cetera, what is the website about? And if they're interested in your programs, tell us where they can go and what the website is.
Well, the website is, what they can do for information, first of all, about COVID-19, they can go to optum.com, that's optum.com, C-O-M, and click on COVID-19. They can also go to Live and Work Well, which is all one word, and that's the site for the members, and in that way they can access the rest of the services and find other information as well.
I can't thank you enough. Anything else you want to remind people of before you go, Doctor, about Optum? Optum Health.
I just want to let people know that are concerned about how they're going to see people in this time of crisis, that we've opened up the ways of having access. Normally, there's a limited availability for virtual visits because certain software is required, but during this time, we're using almost anything as a way to communicate with your therapist, your psychiatrist, your counselor, so that telephone will work if you don't have video, et cetera. We just want to do everything we can to make the access available.
Well, I want to thank you very much for making the time. I know you had to get up early to do this. It's appreciated very much. You're helping a lot of people, and we will continue. I'm sure it's okay with you to give out that phone number. Thank you very, very much, Doctor.
Thank you so much. A pleasure.
Okay, and you have a great day. All right, we're going to give out some of these phone numbers again. And again, at 9 o'clock, we're going to be talking with Choice of New Rochelle. And as you know, they deal with the homeless here in Westchester County, their mental illness issues, their housing issues, their food issues. And I really appreciate it. I want to thank Walt Dietz at the Hope Community Services, of course, now Dr. Solomon at Optum, and my friend from White Plains, John Bailey, gave us another number. Okay, now here is a couple of numbers that you can use. If you are getting paranoid, and some people will, if you are prone to anxiety, if you are getting depressed, and you need to talk to someone, we now have two numbers that we can give you. Here in Westchester, they set up a hotline. Get a pen out. Please get a pen out. 849-863-9314. 849-863-9314. And Optum Health, you do not have to be a customer or a client of theirs or using their doctors. They have set up a line that has mental health, licensed mental health professionals, and that number is 866-342-6892, 866-342-6892. Now, something else, and this is from personal experience. For years, I've talked about this on the air, and I don't hold any bones. I have been there. I've been clinically depressed many years ago, fortunately. Although every once in a while, the barbarian at the gate pokes his little head in. When you suffer from depression, the degree of anxiety or paranoia that even the most healthy people can, there is a sensibility that says, oh, no one has my specific set of problems. Or no, I'm alone in this. It's just not so. And we all felt that way when we were there, particularly if you get to the point where you're suicidal. You're going to say to yourself, yeah, I'm just going to talk to them, but my problem is so unique to me. I'm the worst person in the world, or this life isn't worth living. Well, that's you turning inward on yourself, particularly if you're cooped up in a house and you're not getting externally focused. Call these numbers anyway. Don't think that your problem is so unique that it can't be helped, because one of the great lessons one learns when you get the proper help is that's just not so. So one more time, I'm going to give these numbers out, okay? And that is this is Optum's line, 866-342-6892. And then, of course, here in Westchester, 849-863-9314. And if you are at all having suicidal ideations, call them now. Call them now. And I just want you to just hold on to this one thought. Your problem's not unique. Maybe if it's a money thing or a family thing, or you're just so anxious you can't handle this, thinking ahead, try and stay in the moment and make the phone call. Believe me, your problem's not unique. You will believe that. So you got to just cling on to that and make that phone call, okay? Alrighty, we do have to go to the weather, and soon we'll be talking to Andy Spano about all of these things, and things Trump, and things political, and frankly, things Andrew Cuomo. Right now, the weather's brought to you by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. It's now 43, on its way to 57. We will have sunshine today, a very nice day ahead. Do try and enjoy it. Now, tonight, it'll be a little cloudy, some rain starting at night, going into tomorrow morning as we get down to 40 at night. But tomorrow, the early rain will leave, and we'll have increasing sunshine in the afternoon, the high getting up to 55. We like that. Saturday, a mixed sun and cloud day with late day showers. In this case, a high 51, and of course, you'll have cloudy with periods of rain on Sunday. The high will be 52 degrees. And as we head into the bottom of the hour and we talk with one of our favorite guests, remember, we're supported by pluginvirtualreality.com, the law firm of Payne and Kahn, Aging Issues Management, our friends over at Beachmont Tavern, and of course, United Hebrew of New Rochelle, the top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Our next guest, he is the former county executive. He's held other positions. He was an educator here in Westchester County. He's now a political analyst. He does work on elections as well with the Election Commission here in New York State when he's not busy, now being, I guess, quarantined at home just to be safe. Please welcome Andy Spano. Good morning, Mr. Spano. How are you?
Good morning, Bob.
Always a pleasure to have you. Where do I begin? We have, and I've been trying to stay balanced with this because I don't like the way the president communicates this, and he should listen to his people more and all of that. I get it. But at some point in time, men and women who've had the kinds of positions that you once held, that governors hold, that Cuomo holds, that the president holds, some decisions do boil down to one catastrophe versus another, or life and death. It's real. Do you have any, it's not fair to ask you if you have empathy for the president, but he's in a tough spot here when to open up the economy, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, but he should be focused. Cuomo said it the other day. He's got, and this, by the way, this comparison that we have almost daily between Cuomo and the other governors and him is really hurting him.
But yet in the polls, I agree with you. But yet in the polls, it's not. It's going to make me bang my head against the wall or put it under a truck tire. Why not? Well, why?
Yeah, just give it time.
Okay. Well,
give it time.
Continue then, please.
Give it time. It's because this is real. It's like people who have said something for years. This guy's great. This guy's great. This guy's great. This guy's great. Now, and he's told everybody that, and you don't want to say anything different because it makes you look foolish now because you've been saying it for so many years. So you don't say it, but you think it. It's a matter of cognitive dissonance, and it will occur. Okay, let me go on. What were we talking about?
We were talking about the decisions that even though he may be inarticulate, even though he shoots from the hip, still at the end of the day, some tough decisions are going to have to be made, and lives hang in the balance. And let me just add an addendum to that, if I may. You've got some people on Fox and in other outlets who are bold-faced saying, well, old people just have to die then. I'm shocked that they say it.
I have, there are certain places where people think they're going to be heroes. People like that I used to call it the Tom Mix syndrome, but no one remembers who Tom Mix is. So I call it the John Wayne syndrome. They like to be John Wayne. That's John Wayne syndrome. You go out there and say, I don't care if I'm going to die. It's the American way. They like feeling that way. That's good. Okay. There are X number of those people. But the majority of the people feel that the president should be protecting life. That the economy is something that we made. The economy is something that human beings have put together in a certain way. Certain economists said this and this, and we follow certain theories, and we set up certain things. Human life has nothing to do with that. Human life is something that's created by something or someone other than human beings. And that has to be respected before anything. Period.
And now the majority of the people, do you believe, feel that way? Because I asked someone on the air earlier today if they thought that at some point in time there's going to be, talk about a woke moment, that older Americans are going to say, when all this dies down and the as you know, this urgent sensibility, this emergent sensibility out there goes away, are old people going to say, oh my God, there was a section of Americana that had no regard for my life?
No, I got to put myself in that category.
Yeah, me too.
Right? I mean, all right, if it was a real choice between life and death, not economy, life and death,
Mm-hmm.
between me and a younger person, and they asked me what I thought, you know what I would think.
Oh yeah,
right?
I said it today. If I knew my grandson, if God came down on a tablet and said, "Hey, your grandson, who I'm very close with, is going to live to 80 and have a happy life, but you got to check out now," I'd sign up in a second.
Right. Okay. So you understand that.
Mhm.
That has nothing. But if someone said, "Well, geez, Facebook's going to go down if you don't die," screw that. Screw Facebook.
Yeah. Screw Facebook anyway.
Someone else. Listen to me. Someone else will come along when this is over and establish Facebook. No one's going to come along after this is over and bring you back to life.
Well, no, I agree with you, but I'm talking also about some fallout that even though people understand that executives have these hard decisions, there's an element to this that is devaluing age that I think people are going to wake up when this is all over. I mean, it may be because I turned 70 yesterday, I don't know, but all of a sudden older people don't have value. I mean, that's going to stick. What I am suggesting is that is going to stick in the psyche of old people, and people are going to pay at the polls for it.
Yeah, I understand. I understand that.
Okay.
And I really go along with that. This is bizarre. This whole thing is bizarre.
It is.
I mean, what's it? I want to tell you something. This is not rocket science. Believe it or not.
Oh no,
handling this is not rocket science. He can't make it happen so that no one dies. He can't make it happen so it doesn't affect the economy. He can, even if he was the greatest president in the world. But what he can do is do everything he can to protect people from dying, to do the right thing, to insist on companies change over and produce masks or produce this and that, and make everyone understands someone has to die. Everyone understands it's not going to be perfect, but he's not doing it.
How do we?
Well, I understand what's wrong with it. This is not rocket science.
Now, yesterday, someone posted on Facebook, and I've heard it on news outlets, particularly some of the far-right ones, that, during the swine flu, 19,000 people died, and we didn't do this. I don't know how to answer people when they say that. What is the difference between that and this?
Well, if I lower the speed limit to 35 miles an hour, less people are going to die.
Mm-hmm.
Would I do that? I mean, there are certain things in life you accept because you can't do anything about it.
Right.
Swine flu and other flus, more people have died from regular flu than this particular disease since January.
Right.
Right?
That's what they'll say.
But we have mitigation things. We know what we can handle with this. This is unknown. This is highly more contagious. And more people will die if we just let it go. And we don't know and it may go on forever. We don't have a vaccine for this.
Interesting. Okay, let's talk.
I just it looks like overkill sometimes, but sometimes it isn't. We had guards in the bathrooms after 9/11. Sure, we overreacted. And then gradually we let it go as we understood it a little more. But we have a different society.
We do have a different society now. Andy Spano, our guest, former county executive. He's been in those hot seats, as is George Latimer now, as is Governor Cuomo. Now, you mentioned, and this isn't just to beat up on the president, it really is more to talk about Andrew Cuomo. This is obviously something for him to behave the way he's behaved that always has been in him. Now, he was a national figure before. He'd been the HUD secretary. He famously ran his father's campaigns, who was a national figure. this is raising his profile to the point, and his success at doing this has garnered national attention. In fact, a lot of the networks are carrying his talks every day. What will this do from a political point of view for him?
I don't know. He's got the moniker now of America's governor.
Yeah, just like
a couple of people
Cuomo
put,
did. Yeah.
Yeah, and well, first of all, we'll see if it sustains through this whole process.
Well, hopefully he won't throw it away the way Giuliani did and become a laughingstock. But
Well, and then you have an interesting dynamic here. If you wanted to write a book, okay, you got Biden, who is 78 years old, 79 years old, whatever, 78. I think. You got Biden, 77, and who's a decent guy and thinks well and really got concern for this country. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The skinny out there is that he's going to pick a vice president after he serves one term who could become president. So he's maybe he really he wants to be president, but he's the kind of guy that has the kind of personality that if he thought it would be better for the country to do something else, he might do it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, who knows? There's no convention on there's a possibility of no convention.
Right.
Because depending on what it is, there's a possibility of a convention. There's a possibility that even he doesn't have enough votes when they get into the convention to win on the first ballot if everyone sticks to the numbers. There's a possibility in a gratuitous state that someone emerges, like Cuomo, and everyone really wants him, and he says to his followers, let's go that way. I mean, this is not written in stone yet.
No, it's not, and I'm sort of glad you brought it up. Although I must say, after the Giuliani experience, there are people that are great in a crisis, and I'm not saying this is true of the governor, who after the crisis is over, you got to put them back in the glass, where it says, in case of emergency, break this glass. We should have put Giuliani back in there. And so that's going to...
I'm saying this.
No, but because my point is that right now, if you asked half of America who they'd nominate for the president of the Democratic Party, they'd probably pick him.
No doubt about it. I have a niece was over before this, just about a couple of weeks ago, and she's a Trumper, forever. She could vote for him.
Yeah, well, that's what we're seeing. And my point is, though, that he has to be careful. In fact, I'm about to coin a new disease. We had Legionnaire's disease, that he doesn't have Giuliani disease, because there's no better example of a guy who was a hero turned into a clown figure than this man. And I'm not, and it's not fair to compare the two. They're different people. But also, and then Cuomo has to all elected officials and politicians their negatives. He's considered ruthless. His own party sometimes wants to throw grenades in the state house. But that I don't think that hurts him right now.
Let me tell you something. Ruthless is ruthless. He's tough. He's very tough.
Oh yes.
Okay. But he's a micromanager in many ways.
Mm-hmm.
But he is always doing his job. He does not play around.
Yes.
He goes home, he thinks of things, and the part that drives everyone crazy, he comes back in with 20 new ideas.
Yeah, I've worked for people like that. God help us.
He's not a glad-hander. He doesn't go to parties at night. He doesn't go around to dinners. He doesn't, he doesn't do that stuff.
He's actually pretty nice on the stump. I've covered him in a few situations where he was talking to people and supporters and stuff. He can be very warm in those instances.
Look, I've known him since he's 22.
Okay, so I didn't. He wants.
Okay, he is very, very. he and I have never had a negative situation. With him.
He once gaslighted me for fun. He as his father was is very close with my old boss, Bill O'Shaughnessy, and I was covering him for the first time, and I couldn't get his attention because I wanted to talk with him, and so I made sure he saw the mic flag, and he was with his detail, and he broke from them. He says, "Oh, wait a minute, who are you?" You work for that Bill, and this was a joke. This was, because you work for Bill O'Shaughnessy. Tell him never to send anybody. And I'm backed up against the wall. Oh my God, what am I going to do now?
Yeah, I know.
And then he laughed
Yeah.
and he said, "No, would you please? What can I do for you?" And I interviewed him a little bit.
Yeah.
And then, but so he showed me a sense of humor then that I really appreciated. But I was green at the time. I mean, I got backed up against the wall. I said, "Boy, did I screw up? My career's over." Oh God.
He's got a great quality. He's very, very proud of his Italian heritage.
Yes.
He is. He loves his kids. Big family man. His mother's apple of his eye there.
Oh God! But can I just say this? I interviewed the mother a couple of times because of her foundation, and of course, I interviewed her after Pagliacci died. I believe that's his name. I forget the great.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
The great opera singer, and because they were very good friends. And when he came to New York, she used to make. She was the best interview in the family. And I interviewed Mario several times, the governor, but best interview in the family was she was terrific, wonderful woman. Anyway, I'm sorry, I digress. So I understand all of that, but so he could emerge if he keeps doing this.
Well, I don't know what he emerges to.
Well,
I was thinking, first
no
of all,
convention.
He's been HUD secretary,
Right.
So the only let's say that this is Biden wins. Let's say this happens. This is all hypothetical. Biden wins. He's got to pick people, and he looks at Cuomo and he says, "What am I going to do with this guy?"
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cuomo's not the kind of guy that's going to be chief of staff because I don't think he could work under somebody as chief of staff.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's just my opinion. Because he's been a leader, he's been on top. There are only a few positions that are better than HUD secretary. So most people never want to go back to where they were.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're talking Treasury. I don't think that's his. You're talking.
What about
defense.
AG? What about AG? He was the AG of the state.
AG is a possibility,
Yeah.
and Secretary of State's a possibility.
But I don't know him well enough. Does he have those kinds of international chops like Hillary did, or is that it doesn't matter? You learn it when you get the job.
I think he's capable of doing that.
Okay.
He's capable of being tough. He's capable of being gracious. Puts good people around him. Look what he's done with this. He calls back Larry Schwartz.
I was just gonna. You read my mind. I got to remind people. This is getting scary now because Andy Spano, my guest, former county executive. Do you remember the great Phil Reisman used to call him Larry the Brain? And then when you left, you gave Larry the Brain to the governor. Talk about a tough guy. I wouldn't mess with him.
No, I didn't give him to the governor. I gave him to the other governor.
Oh, that's right. Yes, almost forgot. Yeah,
What happened is we got together. We thought he didn't have a good number two, so we got together and we convinced him to hire Larry. And Larry, of course, Larry's got a fantastic reputation.
I know.
For management and being able to get things done. So he calls Larry, who has a pretty good job now, and Larry comes back, and Larry's the one. He's getting everything. He's getting the masks and putting them in. He's doing all the logistics on that. Then when Larry left, Billy Monroe from Bronxville, when Billy got the job and of secretary, everyone should know the secretary to the governor runs the state of New York. Okay,
for all intent and purpose, yeah.
So Billy, and they calls Billy back. So he's got Billy running the economics going forward. Where do we go after this is over? And he's got Larry pulled in to do this. And these are guys who, who don't need this. They came back.
No, and they can make a lot more money in the private sector.
I would like to see Trump call some of his people back, and if they would come.
Which kinds of people would Trump call, though? I mean, I would have loved to see him take like the James Bakers and the people with great gravitas, but
that's not going to happen.
Nope,
it's not going to happen. And these are guys who all, I know Larry could tell Cuomo directly what he felt and would.
Like I said, Larry would. Larry scared me. I used to get a kick out of Reisman's columns about him, calling him Larry the Brain. But how is he doing?
Larry,
how is he doing now?
That was really funny. Larry and I would kid because like they do Larry the Brain, Larry runs this, Larry runs
Right.
that, Andy Spano, that kind of stuff. And Larry and I used to laugh about that. I say, I'd say to Larry, what should I do now, Larry?
Larry, tell me, what should I eat for lunch? This is, folks, we don't want to get too much inside politics.
There was a full-page article in the New York Times once, early on in my administration, with big picture of Larry, and it said, Andy Spano's no man.
It's not a no man later on. And folks, unless we don't want to be guilty of inside baseball here, but for those of you outside of the Westchester area, Andy Spano was the county executive for 3 terms, very highly regarded, and his chief of staff. And those of you who come from corporate America, if you've ever been, I've been a chief of staff and a COO twice. If you've ever done it, it's the guy that really runs everything sort of day to day, and who tells the boss what time of day it is. And Larry Schwartz was very highly regarded and somewhat feared when he was with you, and just a very interesting character. You've worked with a lot of interesting characters, as you well know. My favorite is Richard Brodsky, my frenemy. But
Richard, there's a guy. He's writing for the Albany Times now.
Good grief!
And he no, I tell you, he sends me his articles before they get printed. Me and a couple others, not just me. And he's got some really, Richard has some great insight.
Oh, he's a brilliant guy. He's just Darth Vader, the Darth Vader of the Senate or Assembly, whatever it is. But oh my God. It was like interviewing a pit bull. It's good grief. So let's
listen. You want smart, powerful people around you who know more than you do.
That's absolutely true.
Areas.
Absolutely true. Although they're pains in the ass, if I may. I had a guy working for me at Merrill who was brilliant. We were building this whole new system. What a pain in the ass to manage him, boy. He could nitpick. He could pick flies, shoot out of pepper. He's the son of a... Anyway. So.
Well, I told you, my grandfather used to say in Italian, but he used to say, you watch the hands, you don't listen to the mouth.
Well,
because the mouth, he said, the mouth can do anything, he says, but you watch what the hands do. They can't do anything. That's where you know they can do something.
Oh, my goodness.
And I've always done that. I look at a guy, because people say to me, oh, man, he's giving you, so like Larry all the time, oh, you're great, Andy, but that guy, he's hurting you, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, but you watch what people do, and that's why you hire them. You hire them because they can do something. Now, what people go for is this guy. Oh, he's a nice guy. I have fired the nice guys, who I liked and personally friends, and kept the guys who I had this trouble with because they were better.
Well, then you also get guys that are clever. I'm sure if you ask Larry this, now you've always been pretty much the top dog, and I've been that in different jobs, but the more intriguing jobs was when I was a COO to a powerful guy, because a lot of my decisions were based on what I didn't tell him. Because what you get is weak direct reports will come to you to fly something by. And they're telling you because they don't have the guts to tell the boss. By the way, I think that Joe Blow is fooling around with the secretary, and it's going to be on you if the boss doesn't know. And I'd be there saying, is he trying? Right. Is he trying to gain leverage? Because I'll make an issue and I'd have to make these decisions not to bring that to the top guy. Just to let and so there's a lot of being a COO is what you don't tell the boss, right? But you always watch his back, and that's the intent. If you can't do that, you can't do that job. You just can't.
Yeah, so. Yeah, that's absolutely correct. And there were things it would be better. So when a reporter asked me if I knew about it, I would say, no, I didn't know anything about it.
Well, it would be much better, yeah. But when I knew I was fit to do that job, I was also a speechwriter for this one really powerful guy. He was terrible, and I did his first dry run on tape, and it was my moment of truth, Mr. Spano. He said, "So how'd I do?" And believe me, he was awful. So I said, well, hopefully he can take humor and we'll have a good relationship. I said, wasn't bad for a hostage tape. And then I looked and said, God, I hope he laughs, Okay, so let's
You know how you tell a good number two, and Larry was perfect at this.
Yeah.
We would have, our officers had a adjoining door, so I could go in and out and talk to him. No one would ever know that he and I had a conversation, right? And I'd tell him to do something, and he wouldn't want to do it. And then I'd say, you got to do it this way. And he said, I really don't want it. I said, you got to do it. He would do it. He would do it. Everyone would get angry at him, and he would take the anger as if it was his. He would never throw me under the bus.
Yeah,
never.
Well, that's what you got to do. You can't do that. But I used to have fun with it too. Like when I was doing stuff for the president of this one huge division. It's not right to mention names, but it was when we first had caller ID. So I'd be in there going over the budget or something, and I'd remember, he said, Bob, I need this information. Tell the secretary to call. I says, no, let me call. Let me use your phone. He said, why are you going to do that? Because when they see your name, they get all petrified. And I'd pick it up, and I'd be this one woman with Julie. Oh, my God, yes, Mr. So-and-so. I said, it's me, and I need some numbers. Oh, God, did I love doing that. This is evil. Anyway, the fun of being a number two. All right, before we go, some final words for people about managing themselves right now, given the virus, et cetera. What would you say to folks?
I'm saying, this virus is really serious. They should be listening to the medical advice they're getting from the medical community. That's what they should be listening to. Mm-hmm. And right now, without a vaccine, the social distancing is the best thing to do. You know what I'm doing right now? Yeah,
I'm afraid to ask. Go ahead.
I am making a mask because I can't buy one.
You're making.
And I found a way to make a easy mask that I think I'm going to try to put on YouTube. It took me 2 minutes to make it.
But it doesn't need to be of a certain type of fiber, Mr. County Executive?
I don't know, but it's better than nothing.
This is great. This could make a headline. Spano makes masks. This is great. From how far the mighty have fallen. Get a little picture.
Hey, Bob.
Yeah.
Hey, Bob. And it's got a little sticker on it that says Hanes.
Oh, no, it does not. At least, see, this is where I get myself in trouble. If I'm going to make a mask out of underwear, it's going to say Victoria's Secret on it, okay?
Listen to me.
Yes,
think
sir.
Think of all the options and all the colors.
Pink Masks by Andy Spano. I gotta go. You're killing me. Mr. Spano, we needed this. Thank you very, very much. And now I'm going to keep thinking about Hanes or Victoria's Secret on my face mask on. Oh, we're both going to hell.
Everyone will wear them.
Trust me. Be men walking around the whole city. Victoria's Secret stock rose even during the crisis. Men are wearing them for masks. Oh, my God.
Well, I'm going to try it in a supermarket.
Well, no, you've got to send me a picture of this mask and shoot it to me on my cell phone.
I will. I'll do a video.
All right. Thank you so much. Andy Spano, former county executive who obviously has been in the House way too long. Thank you so much. I got to go and get a drink. If anybody ever asks you, does Marrone love what he does? You can tell him, yes, he does. And there was one of the good reasons. I know they've been trying to call, but I always remind people the 9 o'clock gig starts at 9:05, and we're going to be hearing from Guy Fessenden from Choice. And they, as you know, he's the CE. They do wonderful, wonderful work. And I keep thinking of those face masks. All righty. One more look at the weather, a couple of other comments, and then we will get to our next guest. Right now, it is 43 degrees on its way to the mid. It's going to be near. I tell you, we're going to kiss 60. You can see there's no real wind out there. The sun is shining. You can go for a walk, go for a jog, go for a skate, go for a bike ride. Don't congregate. Keep social distancing and wear your mask, even if they say Hanes. The weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. They've been voted one of America's best senior care and rehabilitation facilities, and they're right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.org. And to finish up the weather again, 43, getting up to near 60 today, sunny. Tonight, mostly, but increasing clouds with the rain late. My eyes are tearing from laughing. I can't read. Increasing clouds with the rain late, and then going on into the morning. It'd get up to 40 tonight. That's about it. But tomorrow morning, early rain followed by more sunshine. The temperature's 55 to 60. Saturday, mixed sun and clouds. Late day showers. A high of 51 degrees. And we go to our next guest. I always say full disclosure, I'm on their board, but I'm on their board because of the wonderful work they do. Now, we'll give out these numbers again before we close. We've already told you about a couple of mental health hotlines, one from Opton and one from the county. But Guy Fessenden is the executive director of Choice, and they work with the homeless, the mentally ill, the drug addicted who you often see on our streets or who want to get help. They get them off the streets. They get them some benefits, some food, and try and get them a place to live, get them in drug treatment programs, get them in mental health facilities, and or get them mental health help, even go so far as to get them a Metro card to get there. And of course, these are difficult times for Choice as well. And Guy has built it from a small organization into one here in Westchester that has offices in White Plains, Peekskill, and of course, right here in New Rochelle down on North Avenue. Please welcome the executive director, Guy Fessenden. Good morning, Guy.
Hi, Bob. How are you?
Very well. All things considered, pretty well here in my hermetically sealed studio. No one's allowed in, just me. And so I'm pressing all the buttons myself and everything. It's been wild.
That's the way it should be with you, Bob.
Yeah, they should just keep me in here and just pad the walls a little bit. Guy, your organization is obviously, this has to be a difficult time for you, having to keep your employees apart, but at the same time still helping the people who need it. How are you going about doing it?
Well, it's been a challenging time, but our people are fantastic, and they rise to any challenge. So we've gone from primarily a face-to-face engagement with the people that we serve, we call clients, and the services that we provide are typically on a face-to-face basis with a DSS or a landlord or whoever it might be. And all of that changed in a minute. And changing stuff quickly is very challenging. So we've had to sharpen up a little bit in terms of how we engage our folks and introduce change to them at a more rapid rate than we wanted to. The good news is that a lot of services like the courts and things like that have shut down. Evictions aren't happening for a period of time. Cottage shutoffs aren't happening for a period of time. So a lot of the urgent things have kind of gotten pushed off to the side. We're still able to help people find housing. It's different. We're helping people with virtual walkthroughs of an apartment on FaceTime. We're connecting people to DSS for different services and benefits by phone, but we're on the phone with them when they talk with the worker so that it doesn't become overwhelming and it doesn't become confusing. So we're able to help a lot of people in a different way. The change has been a bit abrupt, but most of our time now is being spent helping people understand what's really going on, because this is the first crisis that has been unfiltered. It's one where you're getting data all over the place, unfiltered from places like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, and it's people's personal views, not necessarily
That's correct.
A more mature view that you might get out of the news. And even the news has a certain level of excitedness because that's what helps hype and sell the news and gets people to watch. So the information that people are getting is coming at them from all kinds of different angles. And sometimes it's contradictory. And we basically have people that fall into three camps. People that get it and understand it for what it is. But then there are also people who believe everything thing that they hear. And they're terrified to leave their apartment. They're terrified to engage with anyone at any distance under any circumstance because they know they will die.
And is it not also true you're dealing with a population that in some ways, in some cases, got the way they became because a lot of data and a lot of misinformation and or contradictory or just overwhelming quantities of it, they literally overwhelm some folks. They literally will put them in a state.
And you don't know what to believe.
Yeah.
And the third category of people that we've got is people who are confused because they've got a litany of physical and mental issues and ailments and diagnoses, and they're looking at, okay, I've got HIV, I've got schizophrenia, I've got diabetes, I've got cancer, and now the world stops because of the flu? Yep. I'm confused.
Yes, that's true. But it's not the flu, and it's very contagious. Now,
absolutely,
you've got some extraordinary people, and we'll come back to this later.
The best.
But in the last month, I've interviewed some people. Every week, they knock my socks off. And every single one of them, it's not a job. It's something more for them that have come in here, particularly the caseworkers and the people that manage the case, the coordinators who manage the caseworkers. They're extraordinary people. You're very fortunate. Now, what do they do? Are they working from home, most of them, or are some of them in the office coordinating? How's that working?
No, everybody's at home. We want to be responsible. We want to make sure that our people are safe and that we are respectful of this quarantine. And we think that if we're able to stay at home for some period of time, probably measured in weeks, not days or months, that we will all get through this, and then we can slowly return to the way that things were before, which we loosely call normal. And we're able to do that. It's not as effective because being face-to-face with someone, you're able to be much clearer. You're able to have a better conversation. But for now, for the short run, we're able to meet people's needs through the telephone and provide them with the services that they need. But a lot of people are scared.
Yeah.
Particularly, we provide support for over 2,400 people throughout Westchester, and at least half of them, from the numbers change all the time, but at least half of them are in New Rochelle.
And now, something this is an observation. It's not even the least bit clinical, but I've noticed less homeless. Well, there's nobody here at the train station. Less homeless here, less homeless in the city. Where are they now? Or are they staying in obviously they go to the shelters at night, some of them, but I'm not seeing a lot, and I'm trying to figure out why not.
People are in shelters. People can also couch surf and stay with friends or family for short periods of time. In the wintertime, that number tends to go down anyway, as people who prefer to be outside during the 3 seasons of the year find some place, just in general, regardless of whether there's COVID-19 or anything else going on. So homelessness, as it's visible, tends to go down in the wintertime anyway.
I see. Now, you mentioned that a lot of people are scared. Are they telling you that? They're scared to come out of their homes. They're scared to... And having said that, if someone was, I don't know, let's just say they were curled up across the parking lot here at the train station, and they said, someone called Choice, I need help. I can't move. I'm frozen in place. I'm all anxious. Would you still send somebody out, or would you call EMT? How would you manage that?
It would depend on the circumstance, but we are not strictly homebound.
Right.
We go out into the field on a regular basis as needed in emergency type circumstances, because there is a balance between being at home and helping someone who is in a really desperate situation. I don't know if being curled up in a ball, at the train station, what kind of a response we would get. We would probably have, a hierarchy where we try and talk with them by phone. We would try and FaceTime with them. or something. But if they need us to show up, we'll show up.
Yeah, that's what I thought you would do. We're talking with Guy Fessenden. He's the executive director of Choice. Those of you who live in New Rochelle know them from their offices down on North Avenue. They used to be where the family court is. They have a large office in, I guess, the headquarters now in White Plains, offices in Peekskill. Where, in the broader sense, as you look forward, you must be concerned about budget issues. New York State has got some budget issues that affect Medicaid. The federal government now, while it's setting money aside, they're going to have money issues. Where's Choice headed in the short term, and then as you look out over the next 5 years or so?
Well, what we have to be able to do is create one-stop shopping for all of our client needs. So right now, if somebody comes in, we provide case management. So we connect them with other services, whether that's for DSS and the financial services that go around that, whether it's legal services or health services or whatever it might be. But a lot of those services are going to start to be provided by telehealth. And we're seeing the first steps towards that now.
Was that happening? Excuse me. Was that happening even prior to this crisis?
Oh, it's happening everywhere.
Yeah.
New York tends to be later in adopting things like that. But I know, for example, my wife has some evening part-time work that she does as a therapist, and it's all by telehealth outside of New York State. So it's everywhere, it's rampant, and I think that this may become a catalyst that allows telehealth to happen. But what we think is that there are going to need to be telehealth centers, and we believe that we would be a great place to be a telehealth center where you would come in, you'd talk to your doctor. But just talking to your doctor isn't enough. You need to have nurses there. You need to have an EKG. You may need to have blood work done. You may have all other kinds of things like that. Well, if I'm going to come in, I'm going to talk to my case manager about all of my external needs, and I'm going to go see a doctor, and I'm going to go talk to my therapist, and I can get some job training. I believe that at some point that rather than I believe that, for example, a CVS might want to set up a small pharmacy within our facility.
Why not?
So that people can come in and have basically a city of support. And I think that that's going to be very compelling because you can go to one place, you can get all your needs met, and your doctor could be in India. I mean,
sure.
That's a lot of years off because of payment structures and
Right.
the government, federal government, state government, and all that. But you're going to be able to reach out and get all of your support, but under one roof. And I believe that that's going to drive out of case management because that's what we do now. What we do is somebody comes in and we go through and create their needs and then knock down their needs one at a time. Okay, I need an apartment. Well, we need to talk to this guy. Okay, I need some help with my immigration status. Okay, we need to talk to this guy. So we're always reaching out anyway, and the client comes to us, and if we could do that and wrap it in with some of the other things that we do, like a food pantry and some art groups and some job training and all that, people can have a very full and robust day with us, knock down all their needs at once, and go home and feel good about what they're accomplishing.
Do you know what I wanted to ask you about apropos of this, Guy Fessenden? And this is now having a month of your guests, some of your employees on. Again, extraordinary people, and I've gotten plenty of feedback from listeners about it. One of the things I'm learning, and this is even after being on your board a couple of years now, and learning there as well, is that what Choice does, it's not like a dentist, if you will, although to some extent there's the ongoing care, or even a surgeon.
Going to the dentist.
Pardon?
It's as painful as going to
well,
the dentist
yes.
sometimes.
No, but the point I'm making is it's not like one day somebody comes in and they're cured of all their ills and they're living in an apartment and they're working for Chrysler and they're selling Jeeps and they move on. A lot of what you do is in the moment and keeping and helping sustain people that is in many cases ongoing for a long period of time.
There's a lot that you can do for a person to prevent them from hospitalization.
Yes.
And normally at hospitalization is when things tend to really fall apart.
Mm-hmm.
So we are the little bit of cost that works with somebody to prevent a little problem from becoming a big problem. You know, that pebble that you kick off the top of the mountain that creates the avalanche?
Yes.
Well, if you can catch the pebble before it goes, you don't have an avalanche.
And that is what I've learned, and I think that is what sustains your caseworkers, because as you know, there are some homeless people that you never quite get off the street forever, if ever, but yet they need the other services, they need the food, they need a place to sleep, and maybe they do finally get a job, but a lot of it is palliative in the best sense. Is that accurate?
Sure. We've had people who have preferred to live in the spring, summer, and fall, prefer to live by the river than be into the shelter system.
That's just fascinating. Fascinating. And then you're dealing with something, what I always try and do when we have on your managers and executives and caseworkers is try and see what it's like to be the people that they work with and try and understand that. For example, even and you almost can break it, you have people with mental illness, drug problems, depression, but then there's the guy or the gal whose life just several things went bad. Now they hate themselves and they've given up and they've thrown in the towel. That is hard to overcome, even in the best of circumstances, to get that person to want to confront the demons that make them hate themselves, but then also go on with their lives. That is a steep hill.
It is. And the service that we provide is a service that is elective to the individual.
Yeah.
And there are other agencies out there that do similar work to us. I would like to proudly say we believe that not better than us, but there are people who if you are too confrontational with them or try and meet them at some place that they aren't or take them someplace that they aren't ready, they can just walk up the street and go somewhere else.
Yeah, they can.
It's like if you go to a gas station and you get bad service, well, I'm going to get my gas somewhere else.
Yeah. And that's what they do. But I guess the important thing is that they get the help. Now, looking into
You know where it's particularly challenging, Bob?
Go ahead.
With substance abuse. Because you can see somebody making just some horrific decisions in their lives, and you so much want to just shake them or encourage them to be able to do something that can help them, and we'll collaborate with them to be able to get rid of the demon. But sometimes they just don't want to.
Or they want to, but they don't want to. During this time when all of us are not doing all the things we usually do, you find a Netflix series. And the Netflix series that I avoided, I just thought that they were taking advantage of the fact that Edie Falco was famous on The Sopranos. Well, there is a Netflix series called Nurse Jackie. And it covers, because a lot of people, again, he wasn't homeless or anything, but there are a lot of people in society screwing up their lives because they can't kick drugs no matter what they do. And this series captures it to the point where it's both at times exhilarating and ultimately heartbreaking. And it's just, it doesn't end the way you think it ends, where it's all peaches and cream. It's a struggle that never ends.
Yeah, what we do, people don't necessarily come into us and say, I have a drug problem.
Of course not.
People come into us and say, Con Ed is going to turn off my power. Okay, so we'll fix the first issue. We'll work with Con Ed and we'll figure out how you don't lose your power. But now let's understand why, if you have a budget that supports a payment to Con Ed, what are you doing with your money? And in the majority of times, it turns out that it's because of having some kind of a substance abuse issue, and that's our first clue. We're not told, but now we're on that path, and we have to try and help the person. But it's very delicate because you have to meet the person where they are. That's why our caseworkers they're amazing. They deal with this all the time. Imagine, everybody has probably had an experience with a loved one or a neighbor or a coworker or something like that might have a mental or physical diagnosis that's challenging. And think about how hard that is, how relentless that is, and then multiply it by 45-ish people. And that's your day. I mean, these people are heroes. Our caseworkers
I know they
heroes.
are extraordinary, and the ones that have come in here exemplify that. And one of the things I've learned in talking with the caseworkers as well on the air is there are a lot of people with the dual problem of they have mental illness or some form of it or personality disorder, and they've been self-medicating and now add addiction to the problem, and now it's still one step further complex.
Oh, yeah. So most people have some kind of a diagnosis that leads to some kind of a medication. And that medication will help to treat the primary problem, but in the process creates so many side effects that once they feel better and the medication's working, they say, well, I can stop the medication because I want to get rid of all these side effects. And in the process, then, the primary problem comes back, but they don't want to go back on the medication, so they self-medicate.
How powerful are the side effects? I know it depends on the drug. You know, I've read stuff that bilateral foot drop and feelings of lethargy and tiredness and concentration. I mean, I'm just touching the. What are the more, if you will, intractable ones that people complain about?
It's kind of like this COVID thing. You know, we're treating an illness, and there's a side effect of wiping out an economy. When we treat the primary illness of an individual, the feelings that they have, the lack of feelings that they have, the lethargy, there's no positive feelings in life. You just don't care. You're tired all the time. People think that it's not worth it. The trade-off is just not worth it. I'd rather go have a drink.
And one of the things that Nurse Jackie covered, not everyone is miserable being high. They're miserable in the outcomes in their life, but they actually enjoy it. It's a positive thing for them. And I think that gets missed by a lot of people who haven't had that kind of a problem.
Yeah, and then you kind of mix that with, okay, I don't necessarily have a job. I don't have enough money to be able to secure the substances that I want. So now I turn to crime. I'm not good at crime. Now I'm in jail. Now I got a felony, so that's going to kind of mess up everything for a long time to come. And I come out, and now I'm in the cycle. And how do you break the cycle? And that's why we've got people embedded in Westchester County Jail, so that we can work with people while they're incarcerated and help them to be able to rethink the outcomes of what they might get when they're released again. The average person that we're working with in the jail is 23 years old and on their fifth incarceration.
Good grief.
And most of them have a very similar story. I ended up needing to have a certain amount of cash flow in order to have these negative behaviors, which I felt were very positive. And now all I do is I come out. When you're released from jail, you come out with a Metro card, your release papers, and a script. So what can you do? All you can do is go back to what you know, and what you know is what got you into jail. This is the problem with recidivism.
These people with 5 arrests before they're 23 and they likely have a drug problem, what kinds of crimes are they going in there for?
It's whatever petty crimes they can
petty stuff, right?
do to be able to get money, to be able to secure some kind of a substance.
Okay.
In general. I mean, that's not fair.
What's a success look like?
What's that?
What does a success look like with one of these kinds of clients?
You mean how do we try and change the outcome?
Yeah. In other words, what's a successful outcome for and take it to the best, but one that really happens, not where maybe a lot of it is just getting them close, and that's as far as you get. But what's the ultimate success like, and then what's the typical success like?
So what is unique for us is we work both inside the jail and outside the jail with the same people. So we take our time to be able to sit down with a person while they're incarcerated and say, let's take a look at this cycle. Now, if this is how you want to live your life, fine. It's your life. God bless. We'll be there, to the extent that you want us to be and to the extent that we can. But if you want a second chance, and only one second chance comes along, here's your second chance. And we will pick you up when you're released. Right? That's the key. You got to pick them up or they just go into the wind. And we will get you to a place where you can sleep. We will get you to the pharmacist to make sure that your scripts are filled. We will make appointments for you, or we will fill the appointments for you that we made while you're incarcerated with DSS to make sure you can get some housing.
And that's the Department of Social Services, folks, if you're here in Westchester County, if you're new to this.
And we will set up all of these things. And look, all of these things are things that you haven't done before. But what you need to be able to do is recognize this cycle that you're in and want it to change. And if you want it to change, we want it to change, and we'll make that happen with you. And what happens, it's interesting, the folks in Westchester County Jail have kind of taken a look at the people that we work with. And one of the measurements that's looked at very closely in Westchester County Jail is violence. How much violence is there? And when we work with someone, the amount of violence that happens goes down by 20%, whether that's fighting with a guard or fighting with another inmate, whatever it might be, because we've been able to reframe somebody to think longer term. Once you can instill hope into somebody that they might not have seen before, they might not have had before, then you're able to help them rethink their whole life, and you have to be able to deliver on that. But if you can, that's where your success can come from.
Now, if out of every 10, how many, and again, I realize a lot of them you're maintaining and keeping them, you're keeping their head above water, but how many out of every 10, or maybe, I don't know what the denominator would be, how many of every 10 are you're really having success with?
4 out of 10, 2 fails, 4 neutrals.
2 fail, 4 neutrals, but you get 4. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good
We think
record.
it's really good. What happens is there are programs that exist in the jail. And when somebody's released, that's it. We don't see you again, or we might see you again in 3 weeks. There are programs that start when people are outside the jail. And that's when you meet them for the first time, and you have to go through that whole introductory phase and establish trust and all that. What we've been able to do in conjunction with the Westchester County Jail, who are really cool people, and the Department of Community Mental Health, which is brilliant in this situation, is that we're able to embed our people in the jail, work with people while they're in the jail, and create a plan that we can implement when they're released. So we can utilize that time. We can help people while they're kind of sitting around with a lot of downtime to be able to rethink how they want to do things. And then we have individuals who are in the jail who work with them, but on the way out, they also meet, before they're released, their case manager who will be working with them outside the jail. So they know the person. It's familiar. We have a care plan in place. We know what we want to do. And then we execute against that with people that they know. So we're that bridge between the jail and the community.
Now,
and it works really well. It works well 4 out of 10 times.
This makes a lot of sense. Now, if someone's been in jail and they have a substance abuse issue, is it safe to say that they've already been detoxed? And do they detox in jail, or does jail put them in a special detox unit? How does that work?
There are detox units. And in general, it's not like the care that you would get on the outside, but there are facilities where you can address this and hopefully be able to leave jail clean, and then it's up to us to help you stay clean.
Is there any rate of one of the things that we lay people have read is that when people have addiction problems, sometimes they relapse 1 or 2 times. But for the successful people, what is the rate of relapse?
I would say very close to 100%.
Okay, but in other words, they're going to relapse.
Yes, at some point they're going to relapse.
Okay, but then but they're successful, so they wind up, but they come back again and they get straight again. Is that what I'm hearing?
You know what? There's a reason that there's a net under an acrobat, right? They're out there, doing their thing, and at some point you're going to slip and you're going to fall. But the question is there a net that's close that's going to catch you, or do you crash to the ground and have to start all over again and be injured and be worse off than when you started? And our agency is that net. All we want to do is recognize that people are human, that
situations can happen, and if they do or when they do, all we want to do is catch the person as soon as possible and make sure that we can, rewrite the ship. Let's turn this thing around if you want it turned around, and let's recognize that, okay, you had a bad day. You had some stressors. A family member died. Something happened at work. You lost an apartment, whatever it might be. And that kind of stress, COVID-19, doesn't make you, go to the point where you crash to the ground.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's look at mental illness and the treatments that you provide there. Now, of course, you go to DSS. If someone is in a bad way, you try and get them a hospital bed. And I hear the horror stories at every board meeting. Remind people the typical wait to get a psychiatrist for one of your clients.
There's a waiting list. And unfortunately, there's a longer period of time that's necessary to be able to get to a psychiatrist. But once you're able to get in there, then you can get the treatments that you need. And in the meantime, we do our best to talk to you. We aren't therapists. We aren't trained that way. Mm-hmm. But we will talk to you. We will be supportive and kind and help you to be able to get to your goals.
Now, on the, if you will, chart of mental illness, you have some people have developmental disabilities, and they're never, because they don't generally result in a cure. But yet, in the way our society is set up now, we don't use institutions the way we used to. There used to be full-fledged mental hospitals. There used to be something called day hospitals where people went 9 to 5 to get disciplined and then at night went home. Do you ever find that there are some things had the infrastructure to treat mental illness been different, your job would be easier or different? Which is to say that, do you wish we still had day hospitals and centers for people like with developmental disabilities or intractable schizophrenia?
Yeah, there are a lot of options that people used to have. I think the reality is that from a budgetary standpoint, to spend $40,000 a month on a person was something that the insurance companies weren't willing to do.
Unsustainable.
So suddenly, everybody graduated. Congratulations, you've earned your right to come back into the community as a full-fledged member. And then the onus was pushed onto other agencies to help them to be able to fill out their day. And there are places like the Sterling Center and other facilities where people can go and they can take classes. They can take a photography class or a cooking class or something like that. We try and do that in our facility. We've built out like a kitchen so that people could learn to cook. And, right now with everything that's going on, we're not really doing that.
Well, of course.
But we should be. And there are other things that have popped up, but the whole theory is people shouldn't be hospitalized for life. People should be in the community and should get the supports that they need to be successful. Now, the definition of what are those supports is a little bit suspect. And the theory is good. Unfortunately, I think that it all came from a bean counter who said, hey, $500,000 a year is nuts to spend every year because this person isn't going to get better, so let's figure something else out.
Well, the people that aren't going to get better and don't have family to fall back on are going to wind up out here in the parking lot. I mean, they just because of people with to see how some people with developmental disabilities, how intractable that is.
Yes.
And certain forms of schizophrenia. I don't know. See, I'm not a clinician. I don't know that they should be hospitalized per se, but I know there are places that are the next level down where there's community living and there's some supervision. Do we have any of that left?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, there are great places like Search for Change that provide. They have a wide variety. I think they have a total of 350 beds. From a group home type setting where there's 24-hour staff up to independent living in your own apartment. So there's a wide variety of options. There's not a lot of it, and it's very difficult to add a new facility because you've got NIMBY, not in my backyard, where everybody thinks it's a great idea to add housing until it ends up being
next door to you.
It's funny that you went down that path. I was speaking with the young woman who was in here last week. Another gift from God, it seems. I always wind up saying when we're done with these interviews, where do they make you? Her
They're
biggest,
fabulous. They're amazing people.
Her biggest concern was that you just can't find housing. It's just
challenging.
And the one thing she mentioned had me really, it actually angered me, is that there are buildings that take Section 8 but won't take your Section 8. And my feeling was that if you take Section 8, tuck tiddlies, you're not going to get, you can't take Section 8 if you don't take anyone with Section 8. Why would you do a credit check on someone who has Section 8? You're guaranteed of getting the money.
Right.
And I could see how she was frustrated. It made me annoyed. How do we combat that? How do we get housing built when no one wants it? I mean, you probably know we had that drive-in center here in New Rochelle, and there were people who lived fairly close. They weren't going to be touched by it. No one was opening the windows. There were people who would complain, I don't want it here. Well, where do you want the testing center? In Oshkosh?
Right.
It's
a great idea in concept, but in reality, it should be up the block, not near me. And people are self-interested. That makes sense.
Well, it does make sense, but it's got to be difficult to come to grips with when you do what you do. Now, at any given time, how many people do you have that want housing but can't find it?
Well, we work with about 2,400 people, and I would say that probably half are in some sort of a housing situation that could be safer.
Mm-hmm.
So by that I mean they may not be street homeless, but they may be in a drop-in shelter, mm-hmm. or they may be someplace where their safety and their security could be significantly better than it is now, where they could have an independent apartment. And we just bang away at it every day. That's part of what our folks do.
Yeah, that's when
it's really hard. But
that's when I started to learn that a lot of this is maintenance. It's just you're bailing the boat, but the boat keeps floating, and that is a good thing. Do you ever look at other societies, other Western societies, or even societies that are less free? Are there any better models anywhere? I know the whole concept of day hospitals came out of Russia, came out of the Soviet Union, for example. Are there any societies that are better than others?
Well, there are societies that have a different view of mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
There are societies that celebrate schizophrenia because while you may get some behaviors that are uncomfortable periodically, along with that comes some remarkable creativity. Now, some of the greatest people and the greatest advances that we've ever made have been from people who have either schizophrenia or some type of a mental illness,
mm-hmm.
and that's what comes along with it, maybe. But you can accomplish remarkable things, and instead of being afraid of it, which we are here, people in other countries celebrate it.
Well, it depends on the nature of it. Obviously, if you are a schizophrenic that thinks God wants you to kill people, well, that's a problem. But if you're a schizophrenic, but see, the issue is with schizophrenia, and I know there are schizoid types, and we're not clinicians again, but there are people who have insight in their condition, and then there are schizophrenics when they are fully episodic. They're not even aware of what they were doing when they were in that state. They couldn't possibly be celebrating that.
Correct.
Yeah.
Sure.
So, and now these are the people, generally speaking, the people who are on that scale where they're psychotic. And again, folks, there's not a subtle difference between neuroses and psychosis. The neurotic has insight into their problem, and sometimes the psychotic does, or is aware of it, or does not. When the person does not have insight into their illness and doesn't take their medication, it would seem to me they have to be hospitalized.
It's getting increasingly challenging to do that. We had a situation where we were driving a client somewhere, and we had the client and another care coordinator was sitting in the back seat, and a care coordinator was driving the car. And at 30 miles an hour, the client got into their head that they wanted to get out of the car.
Mm-hmm.
And the thought process, which wasn't bad, is if God loves me, I will live.
Yeah,
if God doesn't love me or doesn't exist, I will die, but I don't want to live in a world where God doesn't love me or doesn't exist. So it was a win-win in their mind. They jumped out of the car at 30 miles an hour, rolled around for a while, almost didn't cause any collateral damage with other cars, became close. We brought them to the hospital, and they wouldn't admit him.
Why?
Wasn't bad enough.
He tried to kill himself. You could have made that.
You know, that threat to yourself or others argument was there, but, you know, we were selling, nobody was buying.
What would he have needed, and I'm assuming it's a he, what would he have needed to do to have been admitted? Say, I want to kill myself?
Punch somebody.
So punching.
You have to demonstrate on the spot, I think, that you really are, you know, in need of hospitalization. So if he'd gone into the hospital and started to get violent or something like that, then they would have seen it, and then they would have been afraid for themselves, and then he would have been admitted.
But so what, are they going to give him a script for Mellaril or Thorazine and just send him on his way?
Yep. That is exactly what happened.
Okay. So this is why I mentioned this. You are doing this work, and yet there are gaps in the system that give you that also have to deal with stuff that almost can't be fixed. All you could do is keep the balls in the air.
Yes, we're plate spinners to some degree.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, you know, it's like that old adage, you know, 2 birds a tons in a 1-ton truck. You beat the side of the truck, so 1 ton of birds stays in the air. It's God bless you for doing it.
You know what it is, Bob? It's climbing a mountain. It's climbing a mountain with a person, and you want to do it. You want to take step after step
of course you do.
Towards living as happy and satisfying and successful a life with dignity that a person can have. And sometimes they say, you know what, I want to stop on this hike, and I'm very happy to stay right here. Great.
Well, that's fine. Yeah.
And if you want to climb a little bit more, we'll climb a little bit more. And the part that's so heartbreaking is when they fall off the mountain altogether and they're back down at the bottom, and we try to prevent them from going all the way to the bottom, and then you have to start all over again. That's the hardest part of the job.
Yeah, but you do.
But you
nonetheless,
do. Because what's the alternative?
You do. Now let's go back to the individual who jumped out of the car. When that episode ended, were they aware that they did that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, because I go back, as you know, one of the reasons I'm on your board and involved is because of my own issues 35 years ago but it was neurotic illnesses. It was a serious depression. You have thoughts and compulsions that you're aware of, and then when you feel better, you say, how could I even think that? You know, so I realize that there's that dynamic. Did he realize that, or was he so uber religious that he thought his action was obscene, but not or extreme, but not the thinking that went along with it? Because
I think that was his steady state. There wasn't anything aberrant there.
So he hung all of his insecurities, as many somewhat healthy people do, on the belief that there's a God, and if there's not, life's not worth living.
Right.
Wow. That's why I got my issues with religion. That's a major case. It is coming up on 9:48. We have some 12 minutes left with Guy Fessenden. He's the executive director of Choice, and we're talking about the work that they do. Now, you are spinning plates and helping some 2,400 people as we speak. Is there ever a point where you could be too big? Is there ever a point? I know we need to expand, and I wholeheartedly love the work that we do. At what point do you say, all right, we shouldn't get any business of this, or we'd have to open other chapters? How do you manage that?
Well, we have 2 camps of people. We have the business people within the organization who are responsible for quantity.
Right.
And then we have the clinical people in the organization who are responsible for quality. And quantity and quality are always butting heads.
Mm-hmm.
But the rule at Choice is quality always wins. So if there's a quality issue, then we say no more quantity. And then we try our best to improve the quality aspect of what we do. And when we do that, then we can say, okay, let's take on some quantity. But it's not right, it's not fair to meet somebody who's been led down the path a number of times before with people making promises that they don't deliver on, and then we just become one more of those.
Oh, sure, but a lot of it isn't designed to, like one of the things as Choice grew, you didn't make it this monolith. You opened up separate offices so that each office would be staffed at the same ratio and treating the people the same. So I guess there's probably no limit if done right, but still, it's got to be. You must want to treat as many people as you can. Now to that end, you mentioned, does New Rochelle have the most homeless at this point?
Yes.
Do we know why?
Probably just the amount of time that we've been there.
Oh, okay. So that
we're
you're
25
aware of
years
it.
old, and we've been there for 25 years, so people know to look for us during a time of crisis. So if somebody works with us for a while and then feels that they've accomplished what they want to accomplish and goes off, disenrolls from us, then they can always come back. They know that we're there. When Hurricane Sandy happened, it happened right at the end of a month, which was the worst possible time because people had no benefits left on their cards, and there were all kinds of crises. And when we were able to come back into the office, there were 30 people in the hallway waiting for us.
Oh my goodness! Well, that's
because
good though.
They knew that when things got rough, that there was a place where they could go to get help and support that had proven themselves to them.
If you could change anything about the system, what would you change? And not what you do, but the larger system to deal with these kinds of issues.
Well, you see it with this COVID thing.
Yeah.
We are blessed because we are government money being spent right. The government does a lot of things. They don't get a lot of does a lot of good things. They don't get a lot of credit for it, but they do a lot of good things. The Office of Mental Health is a good thing. The Department of Community Mental Health is a good thing. They fund us. That's a good thing. And we're able to go out, and basically our job is to say the system itself is pretty screwed up, and they acknowledge that. And rather than trying to overhaul the whole system, what they've done is they've created little oases where we're able to go in with our client, hand in hand, and try and overcome the obstacles of an inefficient system. So if you said, you could have a paintbrush and start on a clean canvas, then build the system that works. But there are places, there are pockets of organizations, both part of the state, part of the feds, and independently funded, that do great work to overcome the overall inefficiency.
Very, 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 very interesting stuff. All right. The last question is, where do you see the future, and I'm never quite sure what to call it, of the business that you're in, which is helping the homeless, the mentally ill, et cetera. Where do you see the future of the kind of practice that you run? How do you see it being, let's say, 5, 10, 15 years from now?
So what happened was there was a gigantic tug of war a few years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, between the state and the Medicaid operation that it runs and the insurance companies. And when the head of Medicaid resigned and he went to Minnesota, he said, the tug of war is over and the insurance companies have won. So now we are going to a system that is less based on trying and more based on outcomes. You can try and house 1,000 people. If you actually house 50, that's what you're getting paid on. So the amount of change that's going to happen on the basis of outcome compensation is going to be pretty significant. And that's what's coming. So they're going to have as an ultimate goal, we want to reduce hospitalizations because that's where the most money is spent. Okay, well, what goes into causing a person to be hospitalized? And then that will back into us, and they will say, okay, you have to help people to be able to have predictable income through benefits, and you have to make sure that those are maintained. They have to have a safe place to live. They have to have all of the supports that are in place. They have to, you have to be able to watch out for drug use and other things like that. And if you can do some of the ingredients that can prevent the hospitalization and do it successfully in a measurable way, then you will receive compensation. But if you can't, tough luck.
You know what?
So
go ahead.
What's going to happen is what we're doing now, for example, we're spending hours a day with clients to try and allay their fears about all of the stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
That has no value financially in a financial model.
Do you know what? The problem I have with what I'm hearing is it almost says, screw what's palliative. You're either going to get people well or we're not paying for it. But the business that you're in is it just on the face of it is 60-70% palliative. They've don't they get that?
Maybe next week we can bring on one of the MCOs and they could describe their positions.
Wow.
I don't know. There's a lot that goes into keeping a person out of the hospital.
Of course.
And depending on the variables that are identified and how the model is laid out, it could be successful, but right now it's going in a direction where it's going to be very specific.
Well, it is definitional, though.
It's kind of like capitation for doctors.
Yes, but it is.
You see 1,000 people a month.
Yeah, but you know what? Yes, I know, but it is definitional. If keeping them out of the hospital is the standard, it seems to me that we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
If on the other hand, we're only going to pay you if someone's in a house, doesn't come back on the streets, is making money, blah 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 blah. That's insane to me. But I get it. And it also it breeds, if I may, not that we would do that at choice, but it will tempt organizations who provide this help to gin the books. And we used to call that a management school, an unintended consequence. There are times that you're just begging people to disinform you. And we can't have that either, I suspect.
Yeah. Now, keep in mind, this is my speculation.
Uh-huh.
This isn't an official position of anyone other than you and me talking.
Oh, right. No, I understand that. But I'm just trying to understand, what the future of this is, because I get it. Costs need to be controlled. But it seems to me what you said earlier, it's a lot more cost effective for you to do the kind of work that's keeping people out of hospitals. And if that's the standard, that the world will turn. But if it's a total rehab, that's not realistic.
Things are changing. So.
Any final words that you want to add about this wonderful organization that you run and the wonderful people that you send here every week? My God, I every week I think, well, there couldn't be anybody cares more than this one does, and then someone else comes along. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, we have been blessed with extraordinary people who really care and are unbelievably compassionate, sympathetic, with the level of patience and empathy for people that is immeasurable. And that's our organization. That's what we do. So we are only about the people that we employ. If you go to the hospital for an MRI, you'll deal with an inept staff person in order to be able to get the MRI. That's the end game. All we do is help people to be able to get the supports that they need and be with them and partner with them towards their success. Our product is our people, and it has to be good, and it is. They're phenomenal.
You have an extraordinary group of people. Guy Fessenden, most people don't know, but you joined them, 10, 12 years ago. How was it? What was the size of it when you joined Choice?
Oh, we were seeing about 120 people a month, and we had 11 employees.
Wow. And now?
And now we have, I think, about 114 employees, and we're fortunate enough to be able to support and service 2,400 people a month.
Well, I have to thank you. You know how proud I am to be on your board, which, full disclosure, I let people know. And
thank you, Bob. Thank you for everything that you do. You're showing up every month. You're part of the creative process. You're proactive. And you're an enormous value add on the board, and my job is so much better because of you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate that. But, I joined the board. It was, in some ways, almost selfish, because anyone who's been through, and as almost everyone on our board has been touched by mental illness or other things, you know the mountain that we need to climb. So thank you so much for what you do. Thanks for being with us today. Guy Fessenden, Executive Director of Choice. Is there a website where people can check out the services?
Sure. www.choiceofny.org. And if you or a loved one or a neighbor or a coworker need help, then please check out the website. You can drop us a note through the info section, and somebody will get back to you almost immediately.
Guy, thank you very much, and please say hello to all those fine people there, as well as the missus. Take care. Guy Fessenden, everyone. Well, that puts it to bed for another day. Tomorrow we have, I'm going to give out these phone numbers in a minute. We have a good show for you tomorrow, as usual. It'll be featured tomorrow in many ways by Dr. Victor Sternberg and what's been going on with his practice and what his take is on all the care and saving lives versus the economy, etc. We want to thank our sponsors, Plug-in Virtual Reality, Dominic's Fine Cigars, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, Aging Issues Management, and United Hebrew of New Rochelle, the top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhdc.org. And our friends over at the Beachmont Tavern. Our guests today, thank you very much, and callers John Bailey, Vince Russo, Anthony called in today, Andy Spano, Dr. Randy Solomon, and the people from Hope Community Services. Now, a couple of reminders. Hope Community Services needs your help. They need perishables. They're right here at 50 Washington Street in New Rochelle. By non-perishables, rather, we're talking about canned foods, pasta, rice, bread, things of that nature, so that they can give out food. Also, they still have their soup kitchen where they give out hot meals and the ready-made meals for people that they do at night. They need you to go either to mail a check to them if you can, or to go on their website, which is, of course, I just want to be sure I read this right, hopecommunityservices.org. That's hopecommunityservices.org. You can donate that way. Now, we've got two phone numbers to give out. One of them from the folks at Optin Health. You don't Optin Health. You do not need to be a client or a customer of theirs or one of their doctors. They have set up a mental health line if you are frightened by this crisis or you're a shut-in who's becoming depressed or whatever. Here's their phone number. And you do not, again, have to be a client of theirs. Optin set it up of their own accord. 866-342-6892. 866-342-6892. And the county has also set up a helpline. Westchester County, 849-863-9314. That's 849-863-9314. Thank you for listening. Stay safe. Bob Marrone here for Mornings with Bob Marrone, Radio Westchester, your radio station at the train station. It has been a good day today in terms of guests. Thank you so much. And we forgot to thank Andy Spano. Somehow I did skip that, didn't I? John Bailey, Andy Spano, etc. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow at 6:30.